Evil gods have descended, plunging the world into apocalypse and chaos. Humans turn into zombies. The blood moon rose on top of the ruined city. In the rubble of the broken metropolis, our MC, Xia Yan, had been beaten, bloodied, and broken. In the distance, demons wreaked havoc without a single ounce of mercy for the population. Their strong strides and powerful limbs destroyed skyscrapers, tearing through concrete like paper. Under the demons' command was an army of zombies, undead monsters hungry for human flesh. The few survivors tried to run for their lives, desperately clinging to non-existent hope. Xia Yan was continuously trampled and kicked while he was down, a witch snickering at his misfortune. She then started dousing his wounded body with gasoline, covering every inch. The witch and the caped villain said their sarcastic farewells while flaunting their stolen treasure. The caped villain had stolen the most precious thing that Xia Yan owned, the token of the 6 great hells. As the gasoline painfully stung his open wounds, Xia Yan looked at the man he considered his best friend. His only concern was the well-being of his missing little sister. The villain activated the token, summoning the power of a monstrous bear that wore the skulls of its victims as a necklace. The smug villain confessed that Xia Yan's adorable little sister had already been dragged to her miserable resting place for being a nuisance. At least her pure blood was still quite useful for something else. As furious as he was, Xia Yan did not have the strength to stand up, let alone fight back. The retreating survivors looked up to the villain with hope. They knew him as Shijun, the strongest ability user blessed by the gods. As Shijun took the witch into his arms and flew away, he left Xia Yan with a painful parting gift, a lit lighter aimed to burn him alive. The giant demon continued its destructive advance until it was met with the summoned giant bear. Unchained from its restraints, the gargantuan animal wrestled with the pale demon. It was a full-on battle. At the same time, Xia Yan's body was swallowed by the fiery ignition. He gritted his teeth through the agonizing sensation of his skin being burned to a crisp as he desperately wished for a do-over. Xia Yan vowed that if the afterlife existed, he definitely wouldn't let those who wronged him go unscathed. Fueled by hate and agony, his right eye assimilated with the flames as he heard a playful voice granting him his wish. His heartbeat slowed to a crawl, and with one final pump, the flow of time reversed. The fiery power coalesced in his eye as the physical and emotional pain he felt was imprinted on his soul. Xia Yan woke up in the comfort of his own bed, sweating from what seemed like a long and feverish nightmare. The wounds and burns were gone. Could the voice he heard on the brink of death be real? He rummaged around the bed and found his phone. He saw the date, July 1st, 2028, 3 whole days before the apocalypse started. Putting on a shirt, he ran to the bathroom to sober up and try to make sense of what he had just gone through. He still could not believe that everything had started over. He felt normal and healthy. The only difference was the change in his right eye. It had turned pale gold in color, thanks to the fire seed left buried in him as he was burned to death. Xia Yan quickly took a moment to calm down and adapted to the situation surprisingly fast. He suited up and went out the door. He took his first steps outside and took in the sights. His neighborhood wasn't necessarily nice to look at, but all of it would look a lot worse 3 days from now. The apocalypse would arrive and turn many humans into zombies, along with the descent of strange gods. Some humans would awaken powers to stand for themselves, but resistance would be ultimately futile. Cities would be turned into hellscapes overrun by demons, with the few survivors fighting for limited resources to survive. His girlfriend, the witch Ruolan, and his best friend, the traitorous Shijun, would betray him without batting an eye. Speaking of the literal devil, Ruolan started ringing him up. Xia Yan picked up the phone, and the shrill voice immediately blared. She criticized him for not answering right away, asking if he was trying to break up. Ruolan had always been like this. Whenever something did not go her way, she threatened to end the relationship. In the past, his foolish and pathetic self would anxiously and desperately try to appease her. But now, he could not give a single flying thought. He simply answered, sure, confusing the witch. She was expecting Xia Yan to beg for forgiveness like a puppy. After all, Xia Yan doubled down, finally breaking it off with the witch. He was tired of her conniving ways. He did not want to be a glorified servant anymore. He hung up and stashed his phone in his pocket, gaining some semblance of peace. He locked in. Xia Yan knew that he had to hurry up and take care of business with his limited time. Back in Ruolan's home, she angrily threw her phone away after being cut off before she could start cursing Xia Yan out. That dog of hers had the gall to hang up and block her so fast. The witch and Shijun had just finished a round of smashing. Do you think Xia Yan finally found out about our little fling? Shijun asked. That shouldn't be possible, Ruolan replied. She had the loser on a leash, never disobeying her orders and demands. Shijun just laughed. He didn't give a care either way. He was more concerned about the message his old man sent him about collecting some ancient family heirlooms filled with spiritual energy, as something big might happen soon. Roalan remembered her loser boyfriend talking about a family heirloom token before. She recalled that the ugly, centuries-old artifact was currently owned by Xia Yan's sister. Roalan believed that her dog would always come back to her for forgiveness. At that time, she'd just demand the token. Pleased by her ingenuity, Shi Jun straddled the witch, and they went for another round of hide the sausage. The token they were just talking about was a poorly maintained slab of antique. Xia Yan had rushed over 30 kilometers in a cab to his sister's school to ask for the token, ditching his day job. Xia Yan asked what was wrong with his eyes, but he refused to explain. He just asked his little sister if she trusted her big bro. They had been incredibly close since they were young, so obviously, she did. The two had always relied on each other growing up. If there was one person Xia Yun would trust unconditionally, it would be her big bro. She knew that everything he did was for her own good. Since that was the case, Xia Yan tasked her to pack her things and come with him immediately. She obliged and asked for 2 hours to prepare her stuff. Xia Yan wanted to know why she didn't even ask for further explanation. Like she said, she trusted her big bro more than anyone else in the world. He watched as she ran to pack her stuff up. He vowed that this time, he would make sure that Yun would be safe and sound. To do that, he would need the family heirloom, resting in his palm. All he could remember was Shi Jun opening some sort of portal and summoning a giant beast using the rusty old thing. He wondered how that snake managed to do such a mythical feat suddenly. The fire seed in his golden eye shot out and hit the token's surface. The heat from the fire melted the rusty surface and revealed the token's original form. This was an ancient artifact connected to the sixth great hell. Xia Yan was suddenly sucked into a wormhole of sorts, traveling inside the token's separate dimension. The portal eventually spat him out into an entirely different realm filled with perpetual darkness. In the middle of it was a giant tower with countless crimson chains attached in every direction. He could not even find the words to explain what he was seeing. Inside the tower was a plethora of monsters and demons from all sorts of eras, locked up and desperate to get out. They all looked at him with their penetrating glares as he descended to its entrance. The monsters and demons tried to scare him with their snarls and gazes, and it was incredibly effective. Then a lightning tribulation struck the tower with an ungodly amount of force. The lightning seemingly aimed at the monsters that dared to intimidate Xia Yan. Each one of them suffered a painful demise as the destructive power mutilated their grotesque bodies. The destructive tribulation continued to go wild, seemingly connecting to Xia Yan himself. A mysterious power was suppressing the monsters in the tower. Right then and there, he heard the same playful voice he heard before his life was snuffed out, before time reversed. The mysterious entity's lips curved into a smile, revealing her fangs. Xia Yan's guard immediately went up as he stared at the humanoid creature in front of him. She introduced herself as Sudaji, a beautiful nine-tailed fox. She extended a respectful greeting to Xia Yan, the new Hell's prison warden. Tens of thousands of years ago, the immortal emperor gathered 12 immortals, Taibi, Tang, the 3 pure ones, Guanin, Fuki, Shanu, and others, to jointly forge the demon-suppressing tower. The finished product was dubbed the Sixth Great Hell, the nightmare of every evil incarnate out there. Throughout the ages, all sorts of powerful beasts, monsters, and demons were locked away for their grievous sins. In the Tower of Endless Punishment, they suffered the torment of soul-burning heavenly lightning, day and night. The pardon token in your hand is the only key that can unlock the door to this fearsome place. That's also why I referred to you as the new warden. Since this was his first time in this place, the fox invited him to go inside and check on his prisoners. She promised to give him a more detailed report of the place as they walked through. Curious and intrigued by what this all meant, Xia Yan took her up on her invitation. He walked up to the ominous door as if he had nothing to lose. As soon as he entered, he was greeted by the swift weaving of violent energy bouncing around the first floor. Sudaji warned him to look out and be careful of those dancing waves. As if by instinct, his golden eye lit up, summoning a seemingly conscious trail of fire that protected him from the malevolent energy. Sudaji was impressed with how efficiently he handled the tower's first surprise. She identified the flame in his eyes as the nether fire seed. It must be the catalyst that made it possible for you to restart your life after death in the underworld, she said. Sudaji also confessed that she contacted him as his life flickered away. The bond between the fox and the Xia Yan family runs deep. She had been the guiding spirit of the sixth great hell for a long time now, and she could not bear to see Xia Yan get killed by pathetic villains. The despair and anger at the moment of death must have awakened his flame ability, igniting the nether fire seed. She barely had to do anything. That's one big question answered. Now that the apocalypse is inching closer once more, you won't be as useless and helpless as you were in the past, she added. This time, he was determined to do everything differently. Itching to learn more about this tower, Xia Yan asked Sadaji to proceed and lead the way. She explained, the sixth great hell is divided into 5 layers. Based on your soul power, the doors to another floor will light up, representing your current limit. The higher you can go, the stronger imprisoned creatures you can encounter. So, you'll need to increase your soul power fast to face them. Right now, the only section lit and accessible is the one on the ground floor. Behind the prison cell was a familiarly terrifying figure. It was the same gigantic beast that Shi Jun summoned and rode in his previous life. Curiosity got the best of Xia Yan, and they walked a little too close to the prison cell, waking up the monster. As it roared a terrifying war cry, what happened next shocked him to his core. The monstrous beast started acting like a cuddly pet, seemingly pleased to see the new warden of the prison. It praised Xia Yan for being young and promising. The prisoners of the tower had been waiting for a new warden to arrive for thousands of years, after all. The beast even offered its services if Xia Yan ever needed anything. The shameless black bear even tried to sneak a kiss in before being kicked away by Sadaji for daring to get close to the warden. As it turned out, the fox just wanted to get first dibs on licking Xia Yan lovingly first. She did not want any competition for the warden's attention. She complained that these 1,000-year-old demon kings had only been imprisoned for a few thousand years and had already turned into attention-hungry dogs. But not everyone was like Black Bear. Some of the prisoners did not approve of the young warden only relying on his token. The chained-up bird-looking demon would rather get struck by heavenly lightning for another 1,000 years than grovel at the kid. Accounting for Sadaji in the Black Bear demon, it seemed like the tower held an untold number of legendary creatures. Xia Yan let his eyes wander until they fell on the Black Bear's next-door neighbor. He could see the demon's back, a muscular body with demonic wings attached. The demon turned around, showing its humanoid face with a sharp beak. He recognized the demon from the ancient stories and myths, the thunder god Lugenji. Sadaji praised the warden for immediately recognizing another prisoner at a glance. She clarified that in this world, monsters are ranked as soldiers, generals, commanders, kings, sages, and beyond. Since Xia Yan only had access to the lowest level of the tower, he could only see general-level criminals. The stronger he becomes and the higher he goes, the stronger the prisoners he could encounter. It is said that the topmost layer even held sage-level immortal criminals. Sadaji had heard Lady Nuwa say about how they once held god-level beings in the tower, but they had been lost to the sands of time. The fox urged the young warden to work hard and ascend the ranks to control the entire prison. Xia Yan was more than just a little overwhelmed by the scale of this responsibility. The tower is more formidable than anything his mind could have imagined. The general-level beasts on the lowest level are already powerful enough to cause ruinous amounts of destruction with their power. The prisoners on the top floor must be world-ending nightmares. But no matter what abomination was locked up on top, they would all just be prisoners under the warden's control in the future. In the coming apocalypse, he has the potential to become the strongest. With his minuscule soul power, this is as far as they can go for now. Xia Yan would have to absorb a lot more soul power to light up more rooms and ascend. Sadaji also expounded that soul power is different from awakened abilities. Abilities can be strengthened by absorbing crystal cores from zombies and mutants. Soul power, on the other hand, can only be obtained by killing gods. In 3 days, when those deities descend upon Earth, his hunt will officially begin. Before eradicating the gods, he needs to make all the necessary preparations. Xia Yan found himself in the busy antique street. In his previous life, someone stumbled upon a binding immortal rope from one of the stalls and became a powerful ability user. At this point in time, the treasure should still be for sale on this street. Thankfully, the energy radiating from the antique display cannot escape his nether fire seed. Coincidentally, the head of the Song family and father of Shi Jun, Song Tian, is also roaming the streets to shop with Elder Huang, his trusted antique appraiser. Song Tian spotted Xia Yan looking around the stalls, confused that the young man had an interest in the wares. He remembered reminding his son to pick friends that would be useful one way or another, and Shi Jun assured him that Xia Yan was just a foolishly loyal guy who was easy to manipulate. Song Tian did not pay the young man too much attention and continued their search for valuable antiques. Elder Huang assured him that, with his discerning eyes, they could get a decent haul. It's too bad that most antiques on display are useless. Song Tian had just gotten back from an ancestral worship ceremony where he dreamt of his ancestors telling him to search for ancient artifacts. He did not know what for, but he decided to give it a go. Suddenly, Elder Huang lit up at the sight of a gourd tied to the door of one of the antique shops. The old man immediately ran to snag it for the taking, but someone else had already gotten to it. The shop owner was glad to find another gullible customer he could scam, but that gullible customer was Xia Yan. The owner spouted some nonsense about the gourd being an artifact from the Ming dynasty. He set the price at 10,000, and Xia Yan immediately recoiled at such an expensive price tag. The young man pretended to inspect the gourd for any damage or peculiarities. He argued that the gourd had cracks and was tied with a cheap, broken string. Xia Yan started haggling for the antique, setting his price at 100 yen at most. The shop owner immediately grabbed the gourd out of his hands and told him to piss off. At that moment, Elder Huang and Song Tian swooped in to inspect the antique for themselves, not knowing that Xia Yan had already received the treasure for free. It was the shoddy red string tied around the gourd. No one could have thought that the inconspicuous little string would become so valuable in the coming days. It is the magical treasure dubbed as the binding immortal rope. He was only able to spot it thanks to his nether fire seed vision. Quietly tucking the magical treasure into his pockets, he decided to stick around to have a little bit of fun and do a little bit of trolling. In his previous life, his little sister was captured by the Song family after stealing the token. They used her as a blood sacrifice for some twisted ritual. This time, Big Bro is hellbent on making the whole Song clan pay. Elder Huang verified that the gourd had some faint spiritual aura of ancient origin. He must have sensed the remnant power of the string. Trusting the old man's vision, Song Tian asked for the price of the gourd. Xia Yan slightly interrupted and called Uncle Song's attention with a polite greeting. Song Tian returned the greeting and made some small talk. The shrewd businessman even brought up the ancient heirloom that Xia Yan had, saying that he wanted to talk about possibly acquiring it later. In reply to that bold proposal, Xia Yan raised his voice and name-dropped the wealthy Song Tian as loud as he could to attract everyone's attention. With the streets full of enthusiasts trying to strike it rich on Antique Street, a crowd of fanatics quickly surrounded the stall and saw the famous Elder Huang, the appraiser. The hungry hyenas quickly offered a higher initial price than 10,000 for the gourd. Song Tian was irked by the ensuing bidding war, asserting that he found the treasure first. The bid quickly reached 20,000. The antique enthusiasts drove up the price to 50,000 in the blink of an eye as the shopkeeper encouraged the bidding war to line his pockets. By the end of the brutal auction, Song Tian had to pay 70,000, more than the asking price. He was supposed to get a possible treasure for just 10,000 but ended up overpaying because of Xia Yan's stunt. The young man stuck around to talk to Song Tian about his family heirloom. Uncle Song remained civil and asked the young man to see the token. Xia Yan quickly took it out of his pocket and willingly let them see it from afar. Elder Huang could already tell that the token was a real treasure, and he wanted to take a closer look to confirm. Xia Yan quickly put the token back into his pocket and denied their request for a closer look. Song Tian tried to appeal to the young man's friendship with his son, asking for a favor for his dear old uncle. Xia Yan asserted that he had nothing to do with Shi Jun anymore and, if there was nothing else, he'd take his leave. Finally, Song Tian offered compensation for just inspecting the artifact. Xia Yan took his phone out, showed them his PayPal ID, and asked for 10,000 for a 1-minute inspection. He could give them 5 minutes for a thorough look in exchange for 50,000. Song Tian gritted his teeth and gave in. Bro is just getting scammed left and right. Uncle Song begrudgingly transferred the money over, and the young man tossed the token to Elder Huang. While the suckers were inspecting every nook and cranny of the artifact, Xia Yan was already busy spending his cash. He ordered an ample stock of water and food. Since there were empty cells in the 6th Great Hell Prison, he could just store his supplies there. Sudaji informed him that any item placed in a separate dimension would remain unchanged. He could even store some live animals there, so she requested some chickens to snack on. She was a fox, after all. He bought so many essential supplies, from raw ingredients to perishables, that the vendors might think he was starting a farm. It did not take too long for him to run out of funds. Money really does run out quickly these days. After 5 minutes, he asked the old-ass duo if they wanted to buy some time extension, but Song Tian was already sold. He wanted to buy the token for himself. When the young man responded that he was open to selling, the old men lit up with glee, but the price point he set was way too much. Xia Yan started negotiations at 10 million. The glee on their faces just seconds ago vanished. Xia Yan quickly retrieved the token and asserted that it was an heirloom that had been passed through his family for thousands of years. He believed that 10 million was a fair price, but he was just giving them an unrealistic offer. With that being said, he took his leave. Elder Huang believed that the token was a genuine antique, but it should only be worth around 500,000. The old appraiser believed that he could get the token for 100,000 if they negotiated, but Song Tian was done with reasonable methods. He thanked Elder Huang for his help and asked him to take his leave. The ruthless business mogul called his son, Shi Jun, and ordered him to gather some clan members to find Xia Yan and his sister. He wanted the token and the siblings in one piece. That brat dared to mess with him for the whole day. As revenge, he would do as his ancestors asked and prepare a young girl's blood for sacrifice. Xia Yan just happened to be the perfect candidate. Xia Yan could already tell that Song Tian was plotting his disgusting revenge. This was precisely what he was hoping for. He even regretted not extorting more money from the bastard. Xia Yan was just getting started with collecting debts for the Song family's transgressions. The young man went straight to his little sister's dorm and found Xia Yun waiting for him outside. She was all packed and ready to go. He took her luggage, ready to finally head home for the day. Before they could leave, a pretty woman with platinum hair came running in to stop the siblings. She must have run all the way through, with how disheveled she looked. This was Yun's homeroom teacher, Miss Bai Shireen. Miss Bai tried to catch her breath and proceeded to ask why Xia Yan suddenly got up and left school, knowing that there was an exam the next day, an exam that would be crucial for her future. Xia Yan introduced himself to the teacher and confessed that he was the one who was pulling his sister out of school for a temporary leave. Miss Bai argued that Xia Yun is the top student in her class. She knew that the siblings' parents had passed away, leaving Xia Yan to take care of his sister. Miss Bai expected him to be a responsible guardian, not the type to strain his sister's future. She refused to let her most promising student go without a valid reason. Miss Bai believed that Xia Yun had a bright future ahead and that the young man was ruining it. The passionate teacher firmly believed that, as long as the earth wasn't exploding, Xia Yun should not take this temporary leave for whatever reason. Miss Bai quickly realized that she must have crossed a line with her words, but she was just concerned for her prized student. Feeling bad for intruding on family matters, she still insisted on continuing Xia Yun's education. Xia Yan took it pretty well. He thanked Miss Bai for looking out for his sister's best interests. As a token of his gratitude, he gave the teacher some valuable advice. With a serious tone, he asked her to stock up on as much food, water, medicine, and weapons as soon as she could. Most importantly, she should prepare a large supply of painkillers to help her get through the tough times ahead. Miss Bai was surprised at such a grim implication of his advice. It was as if he was saying the world was really going to end in the coming days. Leaving Miss Bai stunned in silence, the siblings went on their way. Back in Xia Yan's home, Yun asked his big bro, "What's the plan now that she's here?" She wasn't dumb, she knew that her brother must be preparing for something big that was about to happen. He openly admitted that there would be some drastic changes in the coming days but swore to protect her with all his might. He fashioned the token into a necklace and made Yun wear it. While he was going out for a bit, he asked her to never open the door for anyone, no matter what. Yun kept her cheerful attitude, promising her big bro a hearty meal when he came back. The token on her neck would allow Xia Yan to sense her whereabouts at any time. For now, he needed more funds as soon as possible. Xia Yan got out of the elevator and noticed that the witch was waiting for him in the lobby. She was on a call with someone, blatantly talking about the siblings with an irate tone. On the other side of the line was that snake Jun, telling Wan to keep the loser occupied while he and his boys did their thing. Seeing that Xia Yan had finally shown his face, the witch tried to use her feminine charm and invited him to grab a late-night snack with Shujun, like old times. Xia Yan didn't want to waste another breath on this witch, so he just shoved her out of the way. But Ruolan was either extremely persistent, or she just couldn't read the room. She grabbed his arm and asked if they were really breaking up. "After everything we've been through?" she questioned. She thought he was just being childishly jealous about something, so she came all the way out here to see him. Xia Yan pushed her once more. Just the thought that he was ever in a relationship with her made him sick. He warned her to stay the hell away from him from now on. Ruolan went on the offensive, calling him ungrateful, but her words no longer held any power over the young man. Xia Yan just exited the building, leaving the conniving witch. Ruolan's ego was shattered, and she quickly reverted to being the demanding waste of space that she was. Xia Yan waved the deed of his house in the air, telling her that he was going to sell it. The witch panicked. She had been expecting to get the place once they got married. She had long since viewed it as their wedding house. Not only was Xia Yan going to sell it, but he was going to sell it way below market price, too. Xia Yan's behavior just didn't make any sense. He had started standing up for himself, and now he was selling a house left by his parents. It was in a prime location, worth at least 3 million. That house was her end goal, that's why she dated him. Quickly thinking on her feet, Ruolan returned to her gentle demeanor and asked how much he would sell the property for. To make the process easier and quicker, he said he was going to put it up for just 1 million. Ruolan was flabbergasted, thinking that Xia Yan must be in some sort of trouble and needed to sell the house to pay off debts. The young man continued dangling the prospect of selling such a good property for such a low price in front of the witch. She wanted to buy it for herself, but she didn't have the funds to do so yet. All she could do was offer him 300,000 up front and promise to pay the rest later. That's a no-go, though, Xia Yan replied. I'm not looking for an installment plan. He wanted 1 million in cold, hard cash. Roalan considered the factors. She knew that Shi Jun was about to mess with the siblings, and Xia Yan was as good as dead anyway. Even if the witch gave him 1 million, it would come back to her. All she needed was to trick him into completing the property transfer. Finally, the witch caved in and agreed to a deal, inviting him to the real estate office. At the real estate office, Roalan hopped on a call with her mom to get the rest of the cash, assuring her mother that the money would come back without a fuss. The witch's mom criticized her for dating a broke boy, to the point of spending her own money and the family savings to buy his house. The witch nearly cursed her mom out, but she managed to keep it together. She was still thinking that Xia Yan would be gone for good very soon. Getting impatient, the young man urged Roalan to hurry up with the payment so he could sign the property over. The witch thought that he was falling right into her financial trap. Little did she know, she was falling into his instead. When the apocalypse finally descends, every property on the planet will lose all its value. Without the 1 million in her personal and family savings, Roalan would have nothing and would lose her last chance at survival. The witch was all smiles as the deal was completed, even inviting him back to the house to celebrate. This time, Xia Yan did not turn her invitation down. As the sun set, Shi Jun and his goons walked around the back of the residential building with weapons in hand. Before Xia Yan came back, they intended to go upstairs to have a very, very deep conversation with his sister. The poor Yun was upstairs diligently preparing a meal for her brother, unaware of what was about to happen. Unbeknownst to her, the token pendant she was wearing around her neck started emitting a strange energy. Soon, the group of bandits, led by Shi Jun, were right in front of the apartment door. The bastard Shi Jun knocked on the door and called out to Yun. He hoped that the girl would open the door for him since he was her brother's friend. Hearing the knock, Yun went to the door. However, she was in no hurry to open it. Even though she recognized Shi Jun's voice, she said that her brother wasn't at home and asked Shi Jun why he was there. He laughed in his usual manner and replied that he already knew about it. The bastard began to assure her that her brother had gone to buy ingredients for dinner while he had been asked to return home first. His words seemed very true to Yun, for she had no idea what was waiting for her on the other side of the door. Unconsciously, she reached for the door to open it, but suddenly, she remembered the words of her brother, who warned her not to open the door for anyone. Her brother's words instantly made her change her mind because she trusted him more than anyone else. Turning to Shi Jun, she told him that he would have to wait until her brother returned. Her answer made the bastard furious. His friendly mask evaporated, and his tone of voice became irritated. He pretended to be offended because she feared and distrusted him, and he began to demand that Yun immediately open the door. But with this behavior, this jerk only made things worse because Yun only became more convinced that she should not open the door. Realizing that his plan had failed, Shi Jun decided to go for more drastic methods. One of his friends had already brought a box of tools. They were going to use them to get inside the apartment. For these guys with criminal backgrounds, picking locks was not a new thing, and a lock like this should have fallen in minutes. While his friend was picking the lock, Shi Jun started to ask Yun if the symbol of their family belonged to her. Unsuspecting, she replied that her brother had just put it on her. The bastard's question didn't make much sense, his only purpose was to distract the girl while his gang broke the lock. Soon, they had indeed succeeded in doing so. The very next moment, a bunch of scumbags with bats rushed inside. Isn't it a bit much to invade the home of a defenseless girl? Next time, they should get a bigger gang to be sure. Then the rest went on as expected. They grabbed Yun, and Shi Jun started insulting her. He began talking about how it would have been over a lot faster if she'd opened the door first. He felt like a god now because he had the relic that his father wanted, as well as Xia Yan's sister. All that remained was to bring that insolent bastard to his knees and make him apologize. After freeing herself from the bastard's grip, Yun began to ask Shi Jun why he was doing this, after all, as she thought he was her brother's friend. Shi Jun had no intention of hiding anything else. He replied with a crazy smile that he was only friends with her brother because he was a naive fool who was very easy to manipulate. He didn't even hide the fact that he had done many dirty things, which he planned to blame on Xia Yan. I don't know how, but artist made quite the face to make you want to punch. Yun couldn't believe it, but the reality was cruel. Shi Jun turned out to be a real bastard who kept bragging about his vile deeds, including his relationship with her brother's girlfriend. His touches were vile, so Yun demanded to let her go. However, her words only made things worse. In response to her plea, the bastard slapped her face. He told her not to even think of screaming, otherwise, he threatened to gag her with his socks. Shi Jun's friends were just as scummy as he was. They started asking if Yun was the proper age, to which he replied that they could check it out for themselves. Who knows what might have happened next if it wasn't for someone's sudden laughter. Its owner turned to the guys and asked if they had ever heard of the wine lake and meat forest. Immediately after these words, the surroundings seemed to magically begin to change. Just a couple of moments later, the guys found themselves in a lake with a bunch of beautiful girls. The atmosphere was so beautiful that they didn't even have any questions about how they got there. It was literally a heavenly place, or at least it would seem so at first glance. The girls kept hugging them, giving them meat, and calling them kings. When asked if they liked the meat, the guys said it was incredibly delicious. Nothing seemed to portend trouble, but suddenly, the atmosphere changed. A white-haired girl with a sly smile said that the meat they were eating was their own. Right after that, all the girls suddenly disappeared, and the water in the lake became blood-colored. The haughty smiles on the bastards' faces changed to fear and terror. The paradise they were in had turned into a real hell. Sudaji, who had created all this on purpose, asked if they didn't like the menu. While these wretched bastards' minds were imprisoned in the world of illusion, in the real world, they were writhing in agony. They didn't even realize that their punishment had just begun. Yun only watched from the sidelines, not realizing what was happening. Finally, the bastards came to their senses, scared to death of seeing the ghost. But they still couldn't understand where the illusion ended and reality began. Jun was holding up better than the others, but he also didn't understand where the ghost illusion came from. He and his gang had killed many innocent souls, but now, for the first time, they felt fear and hesitation in front of this little girl. Then the idea came to him that the reason could be this strange token. Jun took it out and started yelling at it, calling it broken old trash that couldn't kill him in any way, but the power contained within the heirloom token thought otherwise. A clawed paw appeared from the token and quickly made Jun realize who the trash really was by leaving deep cuts on his face. The bastard immediately screamed in pain and let go of the token, which rolled across the floor. It finally fell right at Zan's feet. Our hero picked it up and went into his apartment. He returned just in time to watch the wretched criminals in person and punish them properly. The Jun gang immediately realized how much trouble they were in, but then the witch Roalan appeared, demanding an explanation of what was going on. As soon as she saw the injured Jun, she rushed over to him. The rest of the gang began to come to their senses, and Jun ordered them not to let our hero leave with the treasure. Yun only had time to warn her brother to be careful. Confident in their numerical advantage, the bastards moved forward, attacking all at once. They hoped to win quickly, but our hero stood still. He wasn't afraid of these losers at all. However, there was a problem that Sudaji had told him about. The Raven General used his power to strike Shun's face with his claw, but he did so without Xia Yan's permission and used up all of his token power. The Bear General was upset that he couldn't appear and show his power, but our hero was only happy about it. If he had shown up, the house would have definitely been destroyed. This apartment is too small a stage for such powerful creatures. Their turn will come later, he thought. He could easily deal with such a bunch of losers with his own strength. Xia Yan didn't even have to lift a finger to send flames directly at these scumbags. The burning thugs didn't realize what was happening. This was the first time they had encountered such an incredible power. It was as if the fire was intelligent, for there was nothing burning in the room except the thugs themselves. The flames were incredibly hot, and no matter how hard they tried rolling around on the floor, they couldn't put them out. Even water couldn't extinguish the flames, no matter how much these losers looked to it for salvation. The flames were only extinguished when they fell dead. This was the first time Jun and Roalan had seen such a thing, and they were even at a loss for words. Now the main bastard, Jun, was truly afraid for his own skin. He had no idea that Xia Yan could use magic. The frightened witch Roalan begged Xia Yan to stay away from them and instead remember that Jun was his best friend and she was his girlfriend. But our hero was in no mood to show mercy to such trash. Jun had dared to come to his house, take his sister hostage, and try to steal a token, and Roalan, the disgusting witch, had acted to distract and delay him. Just looking at them made Xia Yan simply sick. And they still dared to reminisce about their old friendship. Jun stood up and started to play the most innocent person in the world who doesn't understand what Xia Yan was talking about. At the same time, he quietly whispered to Roalan to go and distract our hero, since she was his girlfriend. Jun himself took out a knife behind his back and continued to talk about how he couldn't wait to be the best man at Ru and Zan's wedding. Roalan started to play along with him and asked our hero to marry her. She was even ready to forgive him for having nothing. "Isn't that true love?" she asked. The only thing she wanted to know was how he got such power, and then she would love him forever. At first, it seemed like her spell had worked, and Jun saw it as an opportunity to make a sneak attack. But it was all useless. Xia Yan could easily see their real intentions through the cheap game. Therefore, he was ready to deal with them right now. A stream of flames from his eye captured the rotten couple and made this world a little cleaner before the apocalypse. Watching the flames, our hero thought about why he got this power and realized why: to purify this world of filthy creatures like Shurjun and Roalan. He would scorch all such filth from the face of this planet. Meanwhile, at the Song family's estate, their entire clan gathered together to witness the clan leader address the ancestors. Song bowed before the altar and began to ask the ancestors to bless and help his family so that their wealth would become limitless. The spirit of the ancestors appeared from the altar and demanded ancient spiritual artifacts and the girl's blood in return. The pitiful ancient flask that Mr. Song had bought so dearly did not satisfy the spirit at all. The ancestors wanted a real sacrifice and real artifacts. Mr. Song began to promise that there was nothing to worry about. In just a few minutes, Shurjun should arrive with the girl and the artifact, he said. But the spirit was simply furious that he had to wait for such ungrateful descendants. Even so, he had a message for them: the end of the world, a worldwide apocalypse, is coming in 3 days. It sounded incredible to Mr. Song, but he could not doubt the words of the ancestor spirit. Therefore, he immediately called out to his clan, urging them to send all their manpower and resources to buy up water and food in large quantities. If what the ancestor spirit said was true, the end of the familiar world would come very soon. Song also sent his assistant to quickly find Shurjun and his captives. They needed to make the sacrifice as soon as possible. However, no one had time to even move when the estate's gate shattered into pieces. Xia Yan entered the scene and brought with him a piece of trash called Shurjun. Now Mr. Song could not worry about him not showing up. There was one thing, though: Shurjun arrived in the wrong state, but our hero came to this hornet's nest by himself. Mr. Song was shocked to see his son in such a state. He couldn't even imagine how a loser and poor man like Xia Yan dared to do such a thing to his son and then come to the family estate, destroying everything in his path. Song immediately ordered the clan to kill this insolent guy. A dozen bandits immediately rushed towards our hero. Xia Yan could only laugh at their foolishness. He closed his eyes while preparing a fiery greeting for them, and when he opened his eyes again, flames burst out. Xia Yan tagged each bandit with a mark, and after that, nothing could save them anymore. So, our hero went through their lines without any problems, and the flames hit only those who tried to stop him. Now he was left alone with the frightened Song, who immediately lost all his arrogance. Behind Xia Yan, the remnants of the gang were squirming in the flames, and our hero was about to make the main villain pay. But even cornered and scared to death, Song wasn't about to give up. He had one last hidden trump card up his sleeve: a gun. And he was going to use it without a doubt. However, just as he pulled the trigger, Xia Yan used his flame control ability and blew up the gun right in the villain's hand. Mr. Song was injured in both hands at once. Our hero only laughed at him, saying that he shouldn't have played with gunpowder. Xia Yan himself couldn't get enough of his strength. Even though he was of a low level, void fire gave him incredible abilities. With it, he could simultaneously control 10 flame sources with a volume of up to 10 square meters. But if there were explosives nearby, it could be even more. While our hero was thinking, Song used this moment to reach the altar and seek help from the ancestors. The ancestor spirit couldn't allow the Song family's last heir to be destroyed, therefore, it used its flame power to attack Xia Yan. The power of this flame, amplified by the evil spirits, was so great that even our hero couldn't do anything. He even received substantial damage and was forced to retreat a little. At the same time, the wounds of Mr. Song and the rest of the clan members were healed. Now he had regained his confidence in himself and the strength of his ancestors again and began to promise a very quick death for our hero. This time, Xia Yan was facing a truly formidable opponent, to say the least. It was a real deity. He really didn't expect the Song family to have their own god before the end of the world. After all, initially, he just wanted to steal a few ancient things and make some money, but it turned out to be more complicated than he thought. The angry god, who intended to destroy him, was clearly not part of his plans. Fortunately, Xia Yan managed to dodge the first blow. However, the deity was not going to stop. He tried to swat him as if he was a fly. At one point, it even looked like he had succeeded. Seeing this, Mr. Song began to celebrate his victory, but soon the expression on his face changed to shock and horror. What caused this? Well, it was simple: Xia Yan was safe and sound, and he was also riding the god himself. To understand what happened, we'll go back in time a bit, just a moment before the attack. Sudaji had informed Xia Yan that the deity in front of him was a natural fire spirit. Thanks to the family incense, he had managed to accumulate a lot of soul power over the past 1,000 years, and now he was literally one step away from descending to earth in his true body. If our guy managed to capture and absorb him, he would be able to strengthen his fire abilities as well as strengthen his soul power. Currently, his token lacked soul power, but if he dared to take the risk, there might be a chance of victory. Xia Yan didn't quite understand what Sadaji was talking about and asked what she meant. She said that in order to pull this off, he needed to extract his own soul power and infuse it into the token of great crimes. Then, he just needed to give an order and call one of the prisoners to help him. Xia Yan realized that he could indeed do this. However, in the event that he failed in capturing the Fire Lord and died, the one he summoned could escape from the prison. Insidious, Sadaji inquired if he was willing to take the risk, but Xia Yan had no intention of following her lead. The fox offered him 2 options, but he chose the third. The very next moment, he began to pour hellfire from his right eye into the token, shocking Sadaji. She had not expected this turn of events at all. When she asked what he was doing, Xia Yan replied that if he died, the hellfire would destroy the token, and without the token, no one in the world would be able to open the prison. In other words, the prisoners would never see the sunlight again. Now they had no choice but to act in Xia Yan's interests. Moreover, they would now have a good motivation to protect him. Without a second's hesitation, Xia Yan began to open the summoning gate. The prisoners in the dungeons couldn't help but feel it. Many of them started screaming and begging to be let out. However, this time, our hero was determined to summon the great demon, Black Bear. As soon as the cell doors were opened, the bear rushed outside. Knowing his character, Sadaji shouted in its wake that the warden shouldn't die under any circumstances. Once in the real world, the Black Bear knocked the fire god to the ground, who clearly didn't expect to see him. But most of all, the bear was happy to finally be free after a long time. He was very happy to see the sunlight and even started waving his paws vigorously. However, Xia Yan quickly brought him to his senses. His soul power wouldn't be enough for a long matchmaking session, so he ordered the bear to act immediately. The Black Bear did not cross our hero and replied that he had made the right choice when he called him. He rushed towards the fire god and began to strike him. Such a low-ranked god didn't stand a chance. All of the fire god's attempts to do anything were to no avail. He was shamefully defeated, with no chance to do anything. In addition, his divine body had crossed the line, making it impossible for him to use all of his strength. He tried to retreat, but Sin did not let him do so. Using the immortal rope, he bound the fire deity, who could only scream in panic. Now, this was his unconditional victory. The Song family's ancestor, deprived of his power, was as much of a failure as his descendants. Now, Mr. Song had lost all hope of victory and fell to the ground helplessly. But looking at the rope that bound the ancestor, he remembered where he had seen it before. It was the same rope that Xia Yan had taken from the artifact before he bought it. Our hero only laughed at the rich loser, thanks to whom he was able to get a rope capable of binding immortals for free. Poor Mr. Song had no choice but to cry like a child. His precious ancestor, whose power his family had fueled for thousands of years, was now vaporizing right before his eyes. In the end, his ancestor, a huge fire spirit, had turned into a small spiritual crystal, which Xia Yan could now easily hold in one hand. The Song family's entire inheritance was now in his hands. Now that everything was in his hands, our guy proposed to discuss a deal that Mr. Song wouldn't be able to refuse. Shi Jun turned out to still be alive, although he was still slumped over. So, Xia Yan offered to keep him alive in exchange for absolutely all of the Song family's money. That was a low blow to a greedy bastard like Mr. Song, but he knew that after the apocalypse came, this money would be worthless anyway. In the end, he agreed, and Xia Yan received the money and left to use it. Quickly, Shi Jun just couldn't believe what had happened. He couldn't even imagine being poor, but Mr. Song calmed him down, assuring him that the money would soon be useless anyway, and the main thing was to save and gather as many people as possible for the rest of the surviving subordinates. Mr. Song ordered them to keep quiet about what had happened here and hurry up and sell their properties. Then, they should exchange all the money they received for rice and water. All the supplies they bought would have to be taken to the shelter under Mr. Song's country villa. There's plenty of room and a decent stockpile of weapons. He also instructed them to contact Old Man Huang and buy up all the ancient artifacts they could. Mr. Song was just furious that Xia Yan was the only one to be the first person who got the abilities, because the end of the world was approaching. But he believed that it wasn't the end of the world, and if all the children of the Song family took advantage of the opportunity, the end of the world could be the beginning of their world domination. But as for Xia Yan, Mr. Song was ready to do everything he could to make his life a living hell. Meanwhile, our hero headed to the biggest pharmacy in the city. Thanks to the Song family's money, he now had almost 29 million. Of course, if he had more time, he would have learned more about the Song family, but now he should forget about them, because the main thing is to prepare for the apocalypse. At the pharmacy, Xia Yan ordered 30,000 spiritual cleansing pills at once. Of course, the pharmacist was shocked that someone needed so many ordinary medicines to reduce fever and neutralize poison. Our guy wasn't going to explain everything to her. He just wanted to buy everything quickly. If they didn't have the stuff he wanted, he could go to a competitor. Of course, she didn't want to lose a customer, but to fulfill such an order, she would need time, and the delivery would take 2 days. Xia Yan knew that there were only 10,000 of these spiritual cleansing pills in the city, most of which were sold online. You're probably wondering why he needed so many of these obscure pills. Well, when the apocalypse begins, this unremarkable medicine will be the most important material. In his past life, Xia Yan was infected with a zombie virus and suffered from its symptoms. He didn't want to die, but nothing depended on him. No matter how hard his little sister Yun tried, she could not find the spiritual cleansing pill to save him. As it turned out, the spiritual cleansing pill was the only medicine that could accelerate the awakening of abilities and was effective in suppressing the zombie virus. Unfortunately, they didn't know about it beforehand, and all the pills had already become unavailable. Yun went to a distant pharmacy in hopes of finding the medicine for her brother, ignoring Xia Yan's pleas not to go there because it was dangerous outside. She was caught by the villains who felt free during the apocalypse. Xia Yan never saw her again in that life. But this time, he was determined not to let it happen again. As for the Song family, they know that the end of the world is coming and will surely stock up on food, but our hero hoped that they didn't know about the most important resource in the early stages of the apocalypse, which is not food at all, but the awakened with supernatural powers. If Zan could get his hands on a bunch of spiritual cleansing pills, he would be able to gain many abilities that would make him like an army. He took out his token and ordered his hellfire to ignite. By doing so, he consumed the fire spirit he had sealed in the Song family's ancestral estate. Immediately afterward, he awakened the power of the flaming lotus, and Sudaji didn't miss such an opportunity to congratulate the warden for successfully improving his ability with the power of the flaming lotus. Xia Yan would now be able to break barriers and destroy illusions. For example, now the illusion of the wine lake and meat forest will not be a hindrance to our hero. But that's not all. Now he can more accurately control the shape of fire and even create a fire sword for himself. In the end, absorbing that fire spirit was even more useful than Xia Yan had expected. As you can imagine, this ability was not limited to a single fire sword. As soon as he entered the dungeon, Black Bear and Sudaji began to fight for his attention. All because this dungeon had a sin karma system. Every time prisoners performed tasks for the warden, their sin would be reduced, and the conditions of their imprisonment would be lessened. For example, Black Bear reduced his sin karma to 90 for helping to fight a fire spirit ancestor and received an extra portion of meat for it. Such excessive attention from the prisoners did not please our hero, and he pushed them away. The Thunder Raven was watching all this. He despised these weak mutts who were ready to crawl in front of the warden for a small profit, and he warned our hero that if he tried to summon him, he would regret it. After all, he would not obey and simply escape from prison. Xia Yan was not disturbed by this. As his abilities grew, he would gain access to the next floor with stronger prisoners, and the Thunder Raven would be completely unnecessary for him. When that time came, the Thunder Raven would have to beg him himself to be used by our hero. As Xia Yan's strength grew, the prison warden's token was also filled with energy. It was just in time, because the blood moon was getting bigger and bigger, and the apocalypse was getting closer by the day. Our guy should hurry up and spend the remaining money as soon as possible. The next day, Xia Yan went to the jewelry auction. Here, he hoped to obtain a very powerful artifact. When the apocalypse comes, all the ordinary resources will be quickly looted, but they are not as important as ability enhancement cores, which can only be obtained by killing zombies or using rare artifacts. Just such an artifact found our hero. With its help, he would be able to improve his abilities from the 2nd to the 3rd level. In his previous life, one lucky guy got the stone and developed his abilities before anyone else, gaining countless advantages. But this time, it would be our hero in his place. A few hours later, the stone was put up for auction at a price of 3 million. According to experts' estimates, it turned out that this raw stone had a huge potential, and the jadeite inside it could be worth at least 5 million. Immediately, buyers began to raise the bids and gradually reached 4 million. But suddenly, some rich son of A bid 5 million at once, and everyone else lost interest. Because if this rich bastard was interested in the subject, the others did not want to cross him, knowing that he owned one of the biggest companies in China. As a reward for staying out of his way, he invited everyone to have a drink at his expense next time. Suddenly, Xia Yan entered the room and raised the bet to 6 million. Everyone around was puzzled as to where this student had come from and where he had gotten such money to bid. One of the organizers of the auction immediately ran up to our guy and said that they have a membership system here, and to participate in the auction, one must have a black bank card as proof of solvency. Fortunately, with tens of millions in his account, Xia Yan already had such a bank card. As soon as this guy saw the card, his behavior changed drastically. Meanwhile, the auction continued, and the girl leading the auction asked if anyone wanted to bid more. Of course, that rich bastard was not going to give up so easily and raised his bid to 7 million, but that didn't help him. Xia Yan didn't change his mind and immediately bid 10 million. Everyone was shocked by such a bet. It far exceeded the price of the processed gem inside. The girl that was with that rich bastard advised him to calm down and not to continue to measure his dignity with this loser who only pretends to be rich. Surprisingly enough, he listened to her and backed off, but finally asked her what our hero's name was and promised to memorize his name and how cool he is. Maybe the next time they meet, victory will be on his side. Finally, Xia Yan got what he wanted. Even just holding the container with the stone in his hands, he could feel its power, and his eye lit up with red flames. There was nothing more for our guy to do here, and he headed for the exit. Behind him, the next lot was presented, an ancient feather fan inlaid with precious stones. No sooner had Xia Yan reached the door than the frightened cries of "monster" and requests for help were heard behind him. Everyone was trying to save their lives when the spirit of a giant snake burst out of the fan. This snake had an almost human face and flew straight at our hero, ignoring everyone else. Xia Yan speculated that the summoning of this monster could be due to the fact that this fan, before the auction, was lying too close to the stone and managed to absorb some of its energy. Besides, the end of the world was getting closer, which also gave the monster more power. After all, the world is about to fall into chaos, and such supernatural events are only small signs of the coming disaster. The rich, blonde guy was not a coward at all, and in the face of unknown danger, did not run to hide like everyone else. He tried to attack the snake with a telescopic stick, but, expectedly, it did not bring any result. The snake didn't even feel his blow and rushed straight at Xia Yan. To everyone's surprise, Xia Yan didn't even move when he caught the snake by the neck and put the fire collar on it. With the improved flame control, stopping the overgrown snake was easy. Then, he activated the lotus flame, and the flames began to destroy the shell of this spirit. After a couple of seconds, all that was left of the snake was another spirit crystal. If Xia Yan uses it, he can gain new abilities. However, judging from the fact that this spirit's level wasn't high, he would only be able to obtain a small ability from it. Xia Yan was about to leave when the rich, blonde man behind him fell to his knees. He recognized that our hero was a true master and wanted to become his disciple to obtain similar power as well. However, he would have to wait. All in good time. After a couple of hours, the front of Xia Yan's house was covered with boxes and cages with animals. This all started to attract the attention of his neighbors. They were puzzled as to how Xia Yan had gotten so rich and why he had bought so many things. Most of them concluded that he was going to start his own business and were happy for him. However, not everyone was so kind. There was one nasty lady who did not like that Xia Yan was doing well. She was sure that he would never be able to open his own store, but the main reason was that Auntie Zhang had her eye on the warehouse that belonged to Xia Yan. She wanted to get her hands on it to open her own store. Of course, she didn't want to admit it now. Just then, our guy came in and didn't pay any attention to the crowd of neighbors. He just walked past all these onlookers, wondering what else he could buy with the money left over after buying supplies. When he got closer, the delivery man informed him that they had delivered everything and asked if Xia Yan wanted to count it all. But our hero was not going to waste time on that. In addition, another car should arrive tomorrow, and most likely the goods would not fit in this warehouse. At least that's what the delivery guys thought. In order not to draw too much attention to his abilities, Xia Yan decided that he would pick up everything himself from their central warehouse tomorrow. Zhang overheard all of this and was shaking with envy. She couldn't understand how Xia Yan had gotten so rich. She knew well that he was an ordinary orphan who had long lost his parents, and he dared to get in her way. How dare he open his store in the place she had first favored? Meanwhile, her little rascal grandson wanted to take a piss, and it looked like she wasn't raising him properly. This little rascal, for such a case, ran straight to the boxes of our hero. This kid was really shameless. His grandmother's reaction was not right. She even praised him and began to justify him in front of Xia Yan, saying that he was small and could do anything. However, our guy did not think so. He quickly grabbed him by the collar and brought him back to Zhang. At the same time, the little boy also managed to give her a golden shower. What did you expect? It's a dumb Chinese manhwa, and the jokes are the same. Zhang got mad and said that Xia Yan can't behave like that, the kid is just playing, and he's treating him like that. Of course, the kid started crying. However, all this did not bother our hero. It is his property, and they should stay away from it, so he just slammed the gate right in their faces. Zhang was just twisting with anger for how much she wanted to get revenge on him. Her grandson, meanwhile, wanted to play with firecrackers and scare the neighbors with explosions. That's when she had a brilliant idea. She will buy a bunch of firecrackers, not only for her grandson but also for herself, and in the evening, they will make an unforgettable fire show together. Some spark would surely hit the warehouse and cause a fire in Xia Yan's warehouse, and she couldn't wait to see his face afterward. Meanwhile, our guy locked himself in the warehouse, away from prying eyes, and started moving all the boxes and cages into his own prison. Sudaji happily welcomed all the supplies, and not for nothing. She, as a cunning fox, had her own plans for the chicken. She would finally be able to eat. Xia Yan, of course, didn't know anything about this, so he instructed her to place all the supplies in the empty cells. Sudaji considered herself an expert in storing supplies. She even advised Xia Yan to allocate an area near the tower to keep the animals. After all, if they were infused with the aura of the tower, their meat would become even more delicious, and so they would have an endless supply of chicken to eat. Sudaji's advice helped our hero come up with something even more interesting. The end of the world is approaching, and no one knows how long it will last. Therefore, a smart idea would be to send more different animals to this prison that will help keep human civilization alive. Hearing this, the black bear advised Xia Yan not to stop at animals and start growing edible plants here. But for that, he would need seeds and fertile soil. Only then would he be able to grow and multiply his supplies, not just endlessly storing supplies in the empty cells of the prison, which would run out sooner or later anyway. Fortunately, Xia Yan has already purchased enough seeds, but the ground around the dungeon is barren and empty. It is completely dry and unsuitable for agriculture. Fortunately, our hero was not completely stupid and came up with a very simple solution. He went to the nearest suburb to an empty field and decided to experiment. How much land from the real world can hold his prison? Xia Yan started collecting as much soil as his ability could hold. Sudaji saw such a flood of soil and realized that it would not end well for her, and shouted for our hero to stop, but no one listened to her. In the end, she was almost buried alive. Xia Yan's soul power was not enough, and the available space was too small to accommodate even more soil. Even so, our guy managed to gather 200 tons of soil, although even that didn't seem to be enough for him. After all, he knew very well that once the apocalypse began, all the surrounding land would become unusable for plants, and the currently fertile land around here would soon become a very rare resource. Therefore, there was no time to waste. Meanwhile, his evil neighbor Zhang started to execute her devious plan and bought a whole box of firecrackers. She just couldn't wait to watch Xia Yan's warehouse burn down. Suddenly, her grandson ran up to her with an antique mirror in his hands and offered to look into it. Zhang didn't know where he got it from and assumed he could have stolen it from the store where they bought the firecrackers. But instead of scolding him for stealing, she praised her clever grandson for giving gifts to his grandmother. There's something wrong with his family. This crazy grandson claimed there was someone in that mirror who really wanted to meet his grandmother, so he forced her to look in the mirror. Right out of it looked at her a demon from ancient myths and legends, but he was more alive than all the living. Frightened, Zhang immediately threw the mirror away, scared to death, but her grandson immediately rushed to bring her mirror back because he was sure that the grandmother was very fond of herself and her reflection. He made her look at herself again, and this time, the demon broke through to this world, finding a suitable candidate to take over her body. After all, Zhang was as dark inside as the demons. Her grandson, like a true madman, laughed and wanted to play some more games, but he definitely wouldn't like further games. Now, his grandmother had become as much of a monster on the outside as she was on the inside, and her grandson was her first victim. The apocalypse had begun. The blood moon had reached its maximum size to freeze over the earth forever, and thousands of ghosts and demons burst into this world to punish corrupted humanity. Meanwhile, the last rays of sunlight were still visible on the coast near the port warehouses, still breaking through the looming black clouds. Life was still going on at its usual pace, and when the fishing boat arrived with the catch, everyone was shocked. All the fish caught were mutated, covered in pus and fangs. The fishermen didn't know if they could even eat them. They had no idea about the apocalypse and thought the fish were mutated because of sewage and sea pollution. Inside the warehouse, a loader came to pick up the goods, but there was something wrong with the warehouse manager. He didn't answer but sat silently and cowardly. There was clearly something wrong with this guy. Looks like the zombie virus got to him first. The loader assumed that his colleague just had a cold and suggested that he should take a vacation and go home. Suddenly, a lot of footsteps were heard, and the warehouse was filled with people in black suits. They asked if there were any spiritual cleansing pills in the warehouse, but the warehouse worker replied that all the goods here had already been bought out by the customer. If they wanted to make a purchase, they should contact the sales manager and place an order. Their company would try to fulfill the order as soon as possible, but the guys in suits weren't going to wait. They were going to move everything out of here right now, and they didn't give a damn about the loader's objections. One of them just came up to him, grabbed him by the shoulder, and threw him like a doll right on his sick manager. The same man hurried the others to get everything loaded faster. Suddenly, someone grabbed his leg, and with his claws, he toppled the big man with incredible force. The warehouse manager lost his mind and turned into a zombie with unhuman strength. The other men in suits immediately grabbed their weapons. A shovel has never failed in a fight against zombies, right? Together, they managed to finish off the lying zombie and free the leader of their gang. The zombie was defeated, but no one realized what it had just been. In addition, the gang leader had a deep claw wound on his leg, and the zombie virus had already started to enter his body. But he didn't pay attention to that. The main thing for him was to follow orders and get the medicine. If anyone tried to interfere with them, they had to be eliminated immediately. Suddenly, a voice called out to them from the entrance. They weren't expecting visitors at all. It's Xia Yan, who came to get the pills he spent his own money on, and these rascals are trying to steal them. The end of the world hasn't fully arrived yet, and these idiots are already rushing to die. The gang leader thought otherwise. He claimed that this entire logistics port, including all the surrounding buildings, belonged to his boss. The goods hadn't left the port yet, so why didn't Xia Yan do them a small favor and cancel his order? For this, he could ask for any compensation he wanted. But our hero was not going to sell one of the most valuable resources for money that would soon mean nothing. Xia Yan gave these bandits a minute to leave the warehouse, otherwise, they would face very unpleasant consequences. Noticing the dead body of the manager, he noted that the zombies had already appeared, so there was even less time than he thought. Unfortunately for the gang, they didn't have the sense to get away and instead decided to attack. But even attacking from the back, none of them managed to even touch Xia Yan. He was so fast that he seemed to have vanished. Looking around, the thugs finally spotted him, but they still couldn't understand how it was possible to move so fast. Xia Yan opened one of the boxes full of food and decided that, for their insolence, he would take all the goods from the logistics center with him. Since they said it all belonged to their boss, terrified, the gang leader asked what he wanted. Our guy just opened their eyes to a new reality. It is necessary to use the knowledge of the enemies against them. After all, they were the ones who wanted to rob him, but now he would rob them. The thugs tried to resist, but Xia Yan's flames didn't leave them a chance. After a couple of hours, the battered thugs crawled back to their boss. Their boss turned out to be a very extraordinary lady. She was just furious that her subordinates not only didn't return the medicines, but lost all other goods as well. The leader of the gang started to justify that the man who took everything from them had superpowers. He wasn't just a man, but a real monster. Xia Yan threw them out of the warehouse and closed the door behind him. When they managed to open the door, the warehouse was already empty. There was so much stuff in there, but in an instant, there was nothing left. Now, the only thing the lady was interested in was what this man's name was. One of her gang said that he had checked the information of the pills customer and found out that his name was Zan. The lady thought about it. She realized that she was not the only one with abilities, and she really wanted to get a man with spatial warehouse abilities. Suddenly, the leader of her gang began to shake and growl like a wild animal, and in the next instant, he fell to the floor. Looks like the zombie virus has defeated him, and the lady should get the hell out of here. But the lady did not seem to be frightened at all. Moreover, she immediately concluded that the virus had already penetrated into the man's brain and that even medicine would not save him. Since there was nothing to be done, she ordered the others to burn the man, warning them to be careful not to come into blood contact with him. But suddenly, the man moved and rushed toward the lady. It would seem that she was finished, but instead of running away, the lady began to gather magic in her hand. Dozens of living branches rushed into the room and pierced the man. Now it was clear why the lady was so confident. Once the zombies were finished, she told the rest of the shocked guards not to be surprised by something like this, for this was just the beginning. She ordered them to keep looking for medicines and stockpiling weapons, and to use the warehouse as a base. Only these preparations could save them from what lay ahead, and what lay ahead of them was a real hell. The lady knew it very well. At the same time, Yun asked Xia Yan why he brought spiritual cleansing pills, to which he replied that the water and air were no longer pure. From now on, they had to drink only mineral water and take 3 spiritual cleansing pills every day. In case Yun suddenly became cold, she would have to inform him immediately. Yun didn't understand why this was necessary and asked Xia Yan to explain to her about what happened. Our hero also thought that it was time for that too, so he promised his sister to tell everything on the walk. Although the apocalypse had not fully arrived yet, the eerie atmosphere was already in the air. Even Yun could feel it perfectly. The reason for this was the demons that were beginning to appear more and more frequently, and it wasn't somewhere far away. Literally, strange sounds were already coming from the neighboring apartment. Zhang had already managed to turn into a zombie demon and eat her grandson. Losing all common sense, she rushed outside with shouts of curses to wreak havoc, full of her endless greed. After a while, heartbreaking screams started coming from the house. At the same time, Xia Yan, along with Yun, were already getting into a cab. Ruolan and her mother were walking nearby. The treacherous Ruolan was proudly showing the house she planned to live in with Xia Yan in order to become his girlfriend again. She even borrowed a lot of money and had the most expensive plastic surgery in the country. In her opinion, Xia Yan would not be able to resist such beauty. The reason Ruolan went for it was because he had suddenly become very strong, and if she could make him her own, she could use his abilities to her advantage. Suddenly, they spotted Xia Yan, who was going somewhere in a cab. He was a treasure that couldn't be missed, so they followed him without a second thought. Xia Yan and Yun arrived at the zoo, where they could already see the signs of the apocalypse coming. The animals that were usually friendly, for some reason, on this day behaved very aggressively. On the way here, Xian had already told Yun that the world would soon end and that people would either turn into zombies or gain superpowers. Xia Yan didn't tell his sister about that painful experience from his past life. He explained his knowledge of the future by the fact that he had awakened his abilities early and could see the future. Realizing the danger of the situation, Yun asked why they came to the zoo instead of seeking shelter. Xia Yan replied that escaping could only be temporary, and it wouldn't solve the whole problem. If they wanted to survive the coming hell, they must awaken their strength. Although he already possessed enough power, he could not stay by Yun's side forever. Therefore, in case of an unforeseen situation, she must be able to stand up for herself. In a word, she should also become stronger. Sister Yun glowed at the prospect of awakening her abilities and becoming as strong as her brother. She didn't want to be a burden at all. The zoo seemed to have nothing to do with it, but we're about to find out. All this time, Ruolan and her equally greedy mother were watching them. They didn't understand why Xia Yan had come to the zoo, but the main thing for them was to organize a chance meeting where Ruolan would charm him with her beauty. Before the meeting, she decided to adjust her makeup and stopped by the enclosure with the llamas, but something in their red eyes tells us that it wouldn't end well. Meanwhile, Xia Yan and his sister arrived at the turtle park. Sudaji immediately appeared and said that she felt something special in this place. Black Bear wasn't silent either and expressed his attitude towards turtles, which he didn't like at all. They are hard to fight, tough, and live longer than anyone else. At last, they came to the right place, the oldest turtle in all of China, and maybe the world. It was so old that it was even known to Sudaji and Black Bear. Xia Yan knew that this turtle had been living here since the day the zoo opened and was definitely over 100 years old. It had even been given a name. On the sign was written, "A long-lived turtle," with the name Nanny. Such a name was a bit unexpected and not at all fitting. In its past life, this turtle was famous because one of the demons tried to take over this zoo after the apocalypse started, but this old turtle got in his way. It even bit him. Their battle lasted for days, but the demon never managed to break through its shell. In the end, the demon was forced to retreat. Xia Yan thought that it would be very good to persuade this turtle to protect Sister Yun. Then, she would definitely be safe. Our hero approached the old turtle and asked for its help, but there was no response. The turtle only looked at him with an indifferent look. Then, Xia Yan decided to try another method. He activated his lotus flame and said that he was hungry after the walk and was going to make turtle soup. That's when the turtle immediately became active. He even spoke, irritated by the fact that people are annoying creatures who are always in a hurry. The turtle thought that threatening a creature if it didn't answer you was a sign of lack of manners, but since they had already come, he was willing to listen to them. Xia Yan said that the apocalypse is about to begin and time is running out, and he asked to protect his younger sister, Yun. Yun was surprised that the turtle could talk and that his name was Nan Nan. In fact, it is a long story. More than 100 years ago, the turtle saved a girl in the sea, who later created this zoo. She is the one who named him Nan Nan, and he ended up with such an embarrassing name because of the accident. Hundreds of years have passed since then, but compared to the lifespan of this turtle, which is 3,000 years, it is just a blink of an eye. Sudaji and the black bear immediately wanted to eat the spirit of this turtle to extend their lives by a few hundred years, but our hero could not allow them to do so. Xia Yan once again repeated his request to protect his sister and asked what conditions the turtle had for him to agree to it. Looking back at the blood moon and the general commotion around, the ancient turtle thought for a moment. He knew well that when the end of the world comes, turtles will suffer as much as humans. So, our guy suggested hiding all the turtles from this pond in the demon suppression tower. There, he could create a pond for them and raise them into creatures as majestic as the ancient turtle. At the mention of the demon suppression tower, the ancient turtle's eyes flashed with rage. He knew all too well who was imprisoned in that tower and who had created it. At its very top is the one who once ruled this world, and the ancient turtle was his loyal pet. He simply cannot allow an unworthy man to rule this prison. That is why he nailed himself to this place and waited here for hundreds of years for the arrival of the one who will have the key to the Tower of Suppression of Demons. The ancient turtle doubted that such a young boy could run such a dreadful prison. If he failed, he could unleash creatures so powerful that the zombie apocalypse would seem like a walk in the park. To prove that he is worthy of the role of prison warden, Xia Yan must bear the weight of 3,000 years of turtle life. Our hero prepared to take the blow, and with the help of the lotus flame, he began to hold the weight of the turtle. Even the ground beneath his feet began to collapse, but it didn't stop there. The turtle was getting bigger and heavier, and it seemed that the whole clearing was about to collapse under his weight. Ruolan also felt that something was happening nearby. She was sure that Xia Yan was there and wanted to get there quickly. But before she could run, her wig was ripped off her head, along with a piece of her hair. That's something she didn't expect. The red-eyed llama decided it was better for this gold digger to look as she really is. Ruolan used her purse and threats to try to get her wig back, but nothing good came out of it. She only got spit in the face from a llama as the final touch to her makeup. She just got what she deserved, so she has nothing to complain about. The llamas were very angry and spat at them. The people kept asking the llamas to stop spitting. But they didn't have much time to stay there because they needed to find Xia Yan. The last time they saw Xia Yan, he was going into the turtles area. So they started walking around, thinking that if they walked a little further, they would find Xia Yan. As they walked, one of them, the girl's mother, stepped on something sticky. She stood up and wondered what it was. Her daughter just looked back. The sticky stuff had made her mother's foot dirty. So, the mother wiped her dirty foot on a turtle's shell. Now that her foot was clean, she kept walking. But when we look at that turtle, its eyes are red. The mother said that if they moved some leaves, they might finally see Xia Yan. She thought that when Xia Yan saw her, he would be very happy. Then, she pulled aside a tree, and it was a surprise. Behind the tree was a big turtle. When the turtle saw her arm hanging down, it opened its mouth and bit her a little. She screamed because even though turtles have small teeth, their teeth are very strong, and they can bite very hard. Her mother couldn't scream, or Xia Yan might hear them making noise. But it didn't matter. More turtles appeared and bit the first woman until they couldn't bite anymore. At that point, there was nothing they could do. But they still tried to leave. However, while running, the first woman's ex-partner tripped on a rock and fell face-first near a scared turtle. The scene changes to another place where we see Xia Yan fighting a very big turtle. The turtle was about to crush Xia Yan, but he was holding it up. While fighting the turtle, the big bear inside his sister wanted to come out and help, but Xia Yan told him not to because he had a plan with the turtle. So, Xia Yan tried to push harder, but he wasn't strong enough and fell to his knees. Meanwhile, the turtle told Xia Yan to give up, saying that no matter what he did, the end would be the same, death. But the turtle had something that Xia Yan also had. If Xia Yan gave that thing to the turtle, he would lose something very important. The turtle really wanted that demonic suspension tower. Also, only the main character could handle the turtle's heavy weight. While the main character was just standing there, we saw Xia Yan's two small creatures. They weren't doing much because they were tired for some reason. But they kept trying until Xia Yan agreed with them. So, Xia Yan used a special ability and asked the very old turtle if it knew the truth. One truth the turtle had learned was that to move forward, you can't go back. Or, you have another choice, you can fight until you die. That's what the turtle did. With his last bit of strength, he managed to lift the turtle's shell. When he lifted it, he felt the full weight, but he still did what he wanted, he threw the turtle to the side. Now that the turtle was thrown, it saw how strong Xia Yan could be. But Xia Yan told the turtle to save its tricks for later. Then, he took out the lasso he had before. He put the lasso around the turtle, and finally, he caught it. Now that he had the turtle, his group cheered. They saw that Xia Yan was truly special and would always use any situation to his advantage. Right now, they were very happy that he caught the turtle. Then, before Xia Yan could do anything else, he gave the turtle two choices. One was to stay with Xia Yan forever. The other was to die. The turtle did not want to stay with Xia Yan. Xia Yan tried to hit the turtle with his sword, but nothing happened. So, he told the turtle to hold on a little longer because he would keep going until it gave up. The turtle was hit many times and only asked Xia Yan to stop. Xia Yan stopped and said that he had used very strong skills. But even so, he still ended up bothering an old man who was tired of being hit. Then, the old man turned to Xia Yan's sister and asked her to hold her brother quickly because he was hurting the animals. Now that the old man had used his best sword, he saw that the turtle wasn't even hurt. One thing the turtle did was change its bones. But then, Xia Yan's sister interrupted. She wanted to make sure Xia Yan wouldn't hurt the ancient turtle. She put her hand on his arm and asked him to let the ancient turtle go away or let her take it somewhere else. Even though the old turtle was very angry, it could still see good in people. So, it wasn't all bad. The turtle asked for just one small thing. Xia Yun shouldn't call it ancient turtle or anything like that because it wasn't that old. So, the turtle changed into a smaller size and went to be next to Xia Yan's sister. It asked Xia Yan's sister to call it Nan Nan. We can see that when Xia Yan's sister called it by this name, the turtle felt she had a kind heart. This made the turtle want to protect her even more in the future. As soon as the turtle said this, Xia Yan's sister hugged it more lovingly. While still thanking it, she also asked to call it by its name, Nan Nan. As this was happening, a bear appeared in its own space. The bear tried to take a little bit of the turtle's age. When it failed, it just cried but still believed that the turtle's protection would be very important for the sister. Also, the bear needed to do something because it didn't know that the turtle was holding a controlled monster. Now, Xia Yan just asked the turtle to do what it was supposed to do. The turtle made a cute face and said yes. Before, the turtle was just playing with Xia Yan's face because it didn't want to go into that other space. But now it was different, so the turtle went into Xia Yan's space. Once inside, the turtle commented that someone with a lot of luck was needed to control everyone in there. And then, the turtle fully went inside a pendant. As soon as the turtle was inside the pendant, we saw that it was trapped in a cage. Now that the turtle was stuck in this space, it was doing everything Xia Yan asked. So it was done. At that moment, the turtle's original body was with Xia Yan's sister. This was so if something dangerous happened, the turtle could use its full power to go to its original body and protect her. The turtle agreed to this, and in this way, Xia Yan's safety was completely guaranteed. Now, Xia Yan could finally focus on other things. While Xia Yan was thinking about what to focus on first, there was a sudden explosion in the background that scared everyone, including Xia Yan's group. To avoid the blast, Xia Yan jumped up into a tree. While on the tree, Xia Yan wondered what the explosion was when several glowing eyes appeared. At the same time, some animals in a zoo were being controlled by something, and these monsters were moving towards Xia Yan. Looking at all this, Xia Yan thought it was strange to see so many animals together in one place. Xia Yan even considered controlling one of them to put it in their own space. Just then, he leaps towards some small turtles, planning to take them to his special place. He sucks them all in. The big, old turtle sees this and simply thanks Xia Yan for his helpful action. Now that everything is done, Xia Yan wants to take Xia Yun to a safer spot because staying there wasn't safe anymore. So, he starts jumping through the trees, moving through the forest around them. We then see his ex-girlfriend beside him, and she calls out to Xia Yan. When she calls, Xia Yan turns to look at her. As soon as he turns around, she's happy to see him and says it's her, his ex. Well, she used to be his favorite girlfriend. She says she had to come down there to get a better look at him. At this point, we might expect him to ignore her and keep going, but instead, he asks why she's there. She replies, why wouldn't she be? She's the most beautiful girl in the world and couldn't leave Xia Yan alone, as she figured he probably hadn't been eating well since they broke up. So, she came back to bring some stability to his life. Her mother agrees with everything she says. Besides, their marriage could still happen because she now has a good house. With all this, Xia Yan wouldn't regret it, since he'd also be getting a good mother-in-law. So, she says she can forgive Xia Yan for being a bit rude before. Now that she's forgiven him, she thinks Xia Yan must be very happy about it. She even thinks so until Xia Yan suddenly jumps away. She then asks him to stop and help her, at least to get out of this place. Meanwhile, we just see her saying all this because she feels like she's leaving someone as beautiful as her behind. Well, not that far behind. Instead, he uses her as bait for the monsters, the animals controlled by something. They find her, and she tells those creatures to just disappear because she's the most beautiful woman, and they can't do anything to her. Whether they could or not, we don't know, because we only see houses and things being destroyed there. Meanwhile, from another place, we see Xia Yan flying, carrying some important animals with him. Now that he has collected the precious animals he needed and sent them to his special place, he needs to find a safer place to settle his sister. Flying around, he eventually finds the main office of the zoo, and then we see him landing there. He notices that this zoo is in a very secure location. Next to the office is a mountain that would stop any large or small monster from coming and destroying this place. So, he asks the turtle to build a good shield there. Then they go inside. They went inside and decided to stay there for a while. Meanwhile, his sister asked him to do some important things that still needed to be done. She knew it wasn't safe for him to be alone there, but his sister really wanted him to go because they now had the strongest turtle helping them. Also, she had made a deal with Nan Nan. Nan Nan would practice his special powers on her, and she would learn to use these powers just like her brother. That's the kind of person his sister was. Now that everything was arranged, he turned to the turtle and asked it to do its job. The turtle simply said yes, it would do its best. After saying this, the turtle's eyes started to glow, and then a shield appeared around the zoo office. The shield locked everything inside and stopped anything outside from getting in. Even birds and wolves nearby that tried to get in couldn't. So, Xia Yan just watched as the animals went away, because nothing could break through the turtle's very strong defense. But now Xia Yan had important things to do. So he jumped out of the window, and his sister wished him good luck. With her good wishes, he jumped and started flying to faraway places. He came across a strange scene where monsters were attacking people. While flying, he saw some people eating each other, but he couldn't stop there. The moon was already very red, and because he was running out of time, he started to fly faster. He arrived in a city where everything was chaotic. People were running everywhere. He saw some changed people trying to catch others. Some people were lucky, but others were knocked down. Some tried to hold on, but it didn't matter, as everyone was caught. Meanwhile, on TV, a reporter said that as time went on, some people were turning into monsters. The reporter just asked people to stay at home. Somewhere else, in a house that was suddenly isolated, we see The Sister's Teacher, by Shireen. While listening to the news, she heard that an organization would help the weak people by giving them food so they could at least survive for a few days. Still waking up, she couldn't believe it and wondered what was happening to the world. It seemed like the end of the world had just begun. Holding on to herself, she saw on the news that some people were turning into zombies. Then there was nothing else they could do. While other people in the comments said they could fight and win against those zombies, as she scrolled down, she saw something else. It was a strange sound that suddenly appeared in the sky. Right when she woke up, she suddenly felt a bit sick with a fever. Feeling the fever, she looked up and saw that her hand was a little red. Seeing this, she was surprised and thought it was just a small cold. She reached for a certain bottle where she kept some important things. But just as she was about to grab it, she remembered something our main character had said. He had told her that on some days, the world would end, so he asked her to buy spirit cleansing pills. Remembering this, she tried to reach for that bottle instead. Grabbing the bottle, she tried to take out just one pill, but the thing that was trying to control her body almost made her pass out. However, she didn't want to give up. She managed to grab a pill, put it in her mouth, and swallowed it. But she was out of time. Back with our main character, he was looking at the red moon in front of him. A few minutes later, he came down and started looking at things on his phone. He knew there was only 1 hour left until the mini-god appeared. This was because in his past life, a greater god had appeared, but before that, the mini-god had shown up first. This mini-god had caused a lot of destruction. When people saw it, they panicked. But for now, he wanted to focus on something else. He was trying to find a way to defeat this mini-god so he could get good items. If he succeeded, he would become very strong. But right now, his priority was training his power. At that moment, he sat on the ground, and a lotus flower appeared in front of him as he started to train. A few minutes later, he opened his eyes because he had managed to build a good base for his training. However, he needed to find a better lotus, one that could make him extremely powerful. Using the power of magical stones or supernatural energies, he managed to improve a lot. And after merging with that ancient turtle, he became much stronger and gained very high defense. Now that he had achieved all this, he was only waiting for one thing, the monsters to appear. The moment he had been waiting for finally happened. When he looked up, he noticed the moon turning even redder. Suddenly, a shadow appeared. Thinking he would have to fight alone, he was surprised when a few people appeared behind him at the door. These people became somewhat frantic when they saw our main character, since they were in a private area. The guards tried to come closer to arrest Xia Yan. As they moved forward, others wondered how he had managed to get to that floor, since the elevator was locked. Ignoring these questions, he suddenly got punched in the face. He realized that there were some crazy people trying to steal his precious money that day. After being punched, he moved forward, but the man in front of him told him to do his job. As he got closer, our main character tried to take action. Everyone stopped moving because they realized something was very wrong. The moon looked bigger and stronger. Then, suddenly, a hand came out of the moon. This hand quickly changed into a minotaur. The minotaur seemed to have the power of 2 betrayals and came out of that other place. The minotaur jumped onto the building and found the first person it would hurt, the rude man from before. The man was already on the ground and couldn't do anything. He begged his friends, the ones who had just been yelled at, to help him and keep him safe, but it didn't matter. The minotaur looked down at the man groaning, grabbed his bloody weapon, and slashed him with a huge, terrible cut, splitting him in 2. When the minotaur tore the man apart, his friends started shaking with fear. They didn't want to stay there, so they turned and ran the other way, trying to get away from the minotaur. But as soon as the minotaur saw them running, it started chasing them. They had no chance at all. The minotaur killed and defeated everyone who was there. Then, the minotaur saw someone else, our main character, Xia Yan. As it came closer, Xia Yan noticed that this world had many insects, and this insect had 4 wings. Legs were going to try their luck like this when the minotaur lifted one of its big feet and almost stepped on him. It smashed the ground completely, and our main character was crushed under it. However, using just one hand, Xia Yan somehow managed to stop the minotaur's foot from crushing him. With one hand, he showed off his strength, while with the other hand, he brought out his sword from his system. At that moment, he told this big creature that it needed more fighting experience. On the other hand, the minotaur was surprised and couldn't believe that a simple human was about to defeat it. Then, our main character, with the sword he got from his system, moved towards the minotaur and made several cuts on it, cuts that were enough to kill it. In an amazing scene, he jumped up and then landed on the ground. The group watching everything was surprised and wondered who this person was. But even so, the minotaur wasn't completely beaten at first. The minotaur had come to this world looking for some fun, and it thought it wouldn't find any. But it did. It found our main character. This amused the minotaur, so it raised its axe again and ran at Xia Yan, trying to hit him. But again, it hit the ground instead because our main character was extremely fast and dodged the axe that was about to hit him. Seeing this, the minotaur was startled. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xia Yan saw that the creature was too excited. So, he decided to take one of its legs. After saying this, he walked toward the minotaur. A little higher up, the minotaur opened its mouth to bite him, but he quickly jumped up, going as high as he could. He pointed his finger, and the sword disappeared. Then, a moment later, the sword appeared again right in front of the minotaur's eyes, hitting both of them. Now that it was blind, he used the flaming sword that he had summoned from the system again. As soon as he grabbed the sword, he ran toward the minotaur. Getting closer, he did what he had said he would do earlier, cut off one of its legs. But actually, he only cut off one of its arms, slicing it from the side. The minotaur turned to look at Xia Yan and wondered what he had just done. But Xia Yan wasn't finished yet. He pulled out the flaming sword from the system again, and right after that, he told the minotaur to relax a bit. After all, it still had 4 limbs left. If it didn't want to lose another one, it should stay still. Since he didn't plan to just wound the minotaur, his goal was always to destroy this beast, and now he wanted to kill it as fast as possible. So, he jumped, and now he was face to face with the monster. The monster was shocked because it only saw him pushing the flaming sword through its body. The cuts became faster and faster. But in the end, he did what he really wanted to do, he completely chopped up the minotaur. The creature ended up in pieces. Now that he had finally defeated, or maybe killed, this minotaur, he thought the fight might have taken longer, but it didn't. The monster was very weak. It didn't even fight much to entertain him. Then, he walked toward the monster. Getting closer, he told the monster to exist, but in the end, it had to accept its only fate, to be sent to the prison. It had no other choice, so it was sent to that prison. Now, in the prison, the Minotaur had a strange meeting with the other monsters that were already trapped there. The moment it entered this place, it was quickly pulled in within minutes and sent straight to that tower. Xia Yan was a little surprised by this, but he already knew what was happening. Even after beating the Minotaur to death, it still didn't want to become his ally. But as soon as it was sent to the prison, it looked at the tower, and seeing it made it feel very scared. In the end, it used its last option, which turned out to be helpful. This action made its attack power 5% stronger, and its fire power also increased by 5%, which gave it a big advantage in a fight. Now that it was in this place, it realized it was already past 7 o'clock. The next place it needed to go was generally towards Fun Xing. But as soon as it finished killing that monster, the group of people watching behind it were very impressed by how strong it was. They also realized that its power was very high. They even thought about staying with Xia Yan, because having him on their side would help them live longer. However, Xia Yan just wished them good luck, because the end of the world was coming soon. A few minutes later, he jumped out of that building, leaving those people watching behind. But as he left some of them behind, we saw others getting ready to do something. Among the people watching, one suddenly decided to grab the Minotaur's axe. This person who wasn't thinking clearly started to believe that if he could get the axe, he might turn into a Minotaur or become something very powerful. So he went for what he wanted, lifted the axe high, but suddenly, it disappeared right in front of him. The monster's dead body suddenly turned into a blue liquid. After that, Rod came closer to him, but he was told to stay back. Then, suddenly, he looked at another person on his team and noticed that this person started acting strangely, bending his body in an unnatural way. In the end, he changed into a zombie. A few minutes later, he ran towards his group with the only goal of eating them. Soon after, all we could hear were screams coming from that place. In the center of the city, screams echoed as people were being eaten, possibly by the same monsters. Meanwhile, in the middle of all this chaos, at the Song family's place, we saw one of the people who had been watching approaching that man, Uncle Song. At that moment, he was focused on his valuable things, which he had managed to collect. But this person warned him that the one who had taken Xia Yan's girlfriend was acting a little crazy, well, not exactly crazy, but behaving in a strange way. From outside the hallways, we saw him running while some people laughed. At that moment, he arrived at one of the rooms where people are kept locked up, where he found his son, who looked completely different from before. He even wondered if his son was okay. The one who was twisting in pain just asked his father to help him. Shi Jun quickly understood that letting him die would be bad. So he asked his worker to get spirit cleansing pills, but the worker said there was only one left. He insisted that it be brought quickly, he didn't care about anything else. Once the spirit cleansing pill was brought, he took it and threw it through the gaps in the locked room, where it landed in front of the extra person. Right then, when he saw the thing, this person just grabbed it and put it in his mouth. After eating it, he sat down in the back. At that moment, his father wondered what was going on. Then, the son said he felt fine now, completely fine. The old man then told him to go look for more of those spirit cleansing pills because he only had 3 boxes left at home. If he could somehow get more of these spirit cleansing pills, he could control the whole world. But the worker said they couldn't stop themselves from selling it. This made the old man angry, and he asked why they hadn't kept those spirit cleansing pills. The worker said he wanted to, but the spirit cleansing pills were too cheap, and he only focused on selling the more expensive items. However, the old man didn't care, as he had many weapons. Yet, the worker also said that only one person had bought those spirit cleansing pills, Xia Yan. When he heard that name, the old man put his hand on his chest and realized that Xia Yan had robbed him and made a lot of money, a huge amount, to buy all those spirit cleansing pills. At that moment, they also couldn't just go outside because the area was completely full of K. With no way out, he wondered how he would win, feeling desperate now that he had superpowers but no solution. The door holding his son broke open. Everyone was surprised, and Uncle Song wondered if his son was okay. His son walked out and said yes, he was better than fine now. Also, the pain he had felt before was gone. Now, he also seemed to have gained superpowers. With a punch he got ready, he ended up cracking the wall in front of him. At that moment, Jun was not only healed but also gained a power. Now that he saw this, he realized that these spirit cleansing pills could basically give you power, but you needed to be infected with this new thing that had appeared in their world. Then, he asked for 3 more people from his group to be brought in to gain superpowers. With these 3 people in his group having superpowers, they could go after a certain person. This person was Xia Yan. After getting all the spirit cleansing pills Xia Yan had, he could take over the entire world, and the Song family would once again become the most important family. Meanwhile, in another place, Bai Shirin didn't know that the spirit cleansing pills she had taken earlier would work so well. The pain she used to have disappeared completely, but even so, she couldn't believe it, until suddenly, looking at the bottle, she noticed something happening. Yes, someone was knocking on the door. Someone knocked on the door, and the woman ran to open it. Her sister, Shiner, was suddenly standing there. Right away, Shiner told her to be careful because there were many zombies outside. She warned that if a zombie hurt you, you could become a zombie too. The woman started to open the door so they could both be safe inside. But then she heard a noise from behind her, and she knew it was dangerous. She opened the door anyway, and they both saw a huge group of zombies coming toward them. Quickly, the woman closed the door again and suggested they go somewhere else. But her sister begged her for help, asking her not to leave her to die with the zombies. The woman knew she couldn't leave her sister. So, she opened the door again. As soon as she opened it, she was shocked. Her sister had scratches on her back from the zombies. The woman wondered what to do, knowing it might be bad to keep her infected sister inside. She thought about what Shiner had said before, that if a zombie hurt you, you would turn into one. However, her sister had insisted she wouldn't turn into a zombie if she had spirit cleansing pills. The woman remembered that her sister was the one who had those pills. But they didn't have much time to talk because the zombies were already at the door, trying to get in. The woman started to think about what would happen if she pushed her sister outside. Before she could do anything, her sister shoved her out the door. The woman fell right in front of all the zombies. Shiner just told her to protect herself. Closing the door, the woman begged her sister to open it and help her, not to leave her to die. But her sister completely ignored her. Inside, Shiner smiled a little. She thought about how her sibling had always had the best things, while she had always gotten the worst. Even though Shiner had left her outside, the woman ended up helping her. But now, the woman was stuck outside and could easily be bitten by the zombies. She asked for help again, but Shiner just laughed at her. All the woman could hear was screaming. After it was all over, maybe the woman decided she didn't care anymore. Her only goal now was to find those spirit cleansing pills. She could already feel herself changing. She searched everywhere and finally found a small box that she thought held the pills. Happier than ever, she ran to open it. But when she opened the box, she saw that it was empty. She kept searching, believing there must be more of those pills somewhere in her house. Her happiness didn't last long. It quickly turned into sadness because when she finally looked, there was almost nothing left. The change inside her was almost complete. She didn't understand what was happening anymore when her phone rang. She quickly picked it up. It was her dear sister. Her sister was alive and completely safe. She was happy that her sister was okay, but she still asked where the spirit cleansing pills were. She lowered her phone and saw all the spirit cleansing pills in her own hands. Now that she held them, she begged for forgiveness, saying what she had done was completely wrong. But it didn't help. She kept repeating the same things she had said before. This didn't seem to be going anywhere. She lowered her head and begged for forgiveness again. She finally told Shiner to stop acting like an idiot because her sister had tricked her again. Then, she apologized to Cheyenne. Shiner had always acted this way, but she always covered for her, always trying to support her sister in everything. But in the end, her sister had betrayed her again. Now she was in this terrible situation. This wouldn't have happened if she hadn't been betrayed. But she kept asking for help quickly because whatever was happening was taking over her body. However, Bai Shirin said the opposite. She said something like she should just die or go to a hotter place. After saying that, she disappeared. Meanwhile, the other one begged for help because she didn't want to die. On the other hand, Bai Shirin stayed frozen there because she had done something she didn't like, whether she wanted to or not. But she didn't have much time to talk or be sad because when she looked to her side, she saw a zombie right next to her. But for some reason, the zombie didn't see her yet. She was startled but still managed to get away because she suddenly had a new ability. She was about to die, but at the last second, she became invisible to the zombies. After realizing this, she looked at herself and noticed something strange on her body. Soon after noticing this, she started running away from the zombies. While running, she reached the stairs and finally saw the exit of the building. She started running towards it, but she felt her energy disappearing. She also didn't understand how the zombies couldn't see her. But she finally found what she was looking for, the exit. And just as she got out, she realized that something was happening. The thing that made her invisible disappeared for a few minutes. Now she knew she was no longer invisible. But at the moment she realized this, she saw that the world outside looked completely scary. She started to feel cold and even began to sweat. As she wondered what she would do with her life, she heard some people calling her name. She turns around and sees Grandpa Chen and her sister Wang. For a moment, she thinks about running to them, but then she stops, worried they might be sick. But they tell her they are not sick and feel completely fine. However, they also see something strange about the other people there, so they decide to leave the building. Then, Rusen says that the rest of the people stayed inside. Some of them died, and others managed to get away. He tried to call the police, but the police never came. Another person standing near Grandpa Chen starts crying and says he has lost everything, his parents and his whole family. He had just arrived in the city to look for a job. He couldn't believe this was happening right after he got to the city. She starts to wonder what they will do now because they don't know what else they can do. They think about trying to reach where they were originally going. But at the same time, their teacher stares in shock as she realizes the whole city is in complete chaos. Before she can even think of a plan to help them escape, she suddenly screams behind them, warning them about a zombie right behind them and telling them to be careful. Careful. They turn around and are shocked to see two zombies staring at them. The boy stares back at the two zombies, while Grandpa Chen grabs the arm of a girl nearby, trying to get away, at least for now. But the other person freezes. One of the zombies starts walking towards the group. Just then, they see a fence in front of the zombies. The owner of the place is in front of the gate, shaking it and trying to break it down. Seeing that the gate is about to break, Shireen shouts for them to run away from there because the zombies will destroy it. It doesn't take long for the zombies to break through the gate. At that moment, to avoid being caught by the zombies, they start running in different directions to escape these monsters. While running, he goes in one direction to find something to use as a weapon. While running, he finally finds something he can use to defend himself, a stick. As soon as he sees it, he grabs it. The zombie that was behind him, ready to grab him, got very close. But at that moment, he turned around faster than expected, and after turning, he hit the zombie in the face with the stick, knocking it to the ground. But even on the ground, he sees that the zombie is not dead yet. Still, that zombie won't be getting up anytime soon. Meanwhile, he leaves that house and says that he managed to deal with the first one. However, they had forgotten that there wasn't just one zombie, there was a large group of them at the door. Among these zombies, one appeared that was bigger and stronger, even muscular. Right then, Shireen and the other person stopped moving. The people nearby saw that there was nothing they could do anymore, absolutely nothing. A few minutes went by, and the zombies that were around started running toward the group. Shireen realized she couldn't fight so many of them. So, they came up with a different idea, to run away. They all started running in different directions. But after running for some time, they understood they couldn't run any further. They were now in a place completely surrounded by the zombies, trapped, with no way to escape. Not knowing what to do, they looked up and saw something happening in the sky. A portal opened up. A huge, scary spider came out of the portal. A few minutes later, that spider fell on top of the zombies on the ground and destroyed all of them. After destroying them, the people watched as the spider ate them. After eating the zombies, this monster then walked toward Shireen. At that moment, she was face to face with a very, very big monster. As it got closer, it used its webs to catch everyone who was there, including Shireen and her sister Wang. To this spider, everyone there was food. Now that she was caught by this spider, she started to notice that it was making this place its own area. But just then, thinking that everything was over, she looked up and saw that more monsters were appearing above it. As she watched all of this happen, she started to remember some things. One of those things was about the main character, who knew about a special pill that could stop the curse of turning into a zombie. So she knew that he knew something important. But at that moment, the spider came closer to her, wanting to eat her. Meanwhile, the story changes to another place, where the main character was killing the weaker monsters. While killing those zombies, the ones that were a little less strong, in another place, a little further away, we then saw two people filming the main character for some reason. He was looking for some gods, yes, gods, to defeat. But instead, he found some level 2 zombies. When these level 2 zombies are killed, they give you a special item called a core, and if you take in this core, you can become much stronger. But now he has something else to do. However, the guy who was filming him earlier came up to him and started saying that what he had just done was amazing. He was also showing this live to 10,000 people who were watching. But after hearing that it was live, the main character simply snapped his fingers, and the camera in the man's hand exploded. The man was shocked by this, seeing his hand completely burned. After this happened, Xia Yan looked somewhere else. Right then, he went into a place that looked like a market. Once inside, he saw that people had already taken everything, so there was nothing left. He walked a little further and tried to find a storage building. When he went inside, he quickly saw that people had been there before him and had stolen everything. Before he could leave to find a safer place, the people around him started asking for his help. He hesitated for a moment but then opened his special system and took out some food, throwing it on the ground. After some time, and after they finished eating, the group of people gathered together. At that moment, they started talking about how kind he was for saving them. However, one person didn't really agree, saying that he hadn't saved anyone. They wondered who he was because earlier he had gone into the storage building and taken all the best things for himself. He only gave them some instant noodles, but they still thought he had saved them. But this didn't make them believe he was a truly kind hero. After that, he stood up and said that they wouldn't be able to eat or drink anything anymore. The food, the water, everything was gone. The only things left in the market were gone too. It was hard to fight him because he had special powers. Not just him, but some people on the internet also had special powers. Another person came up with an idea, saying that maybe the people with special powers were the ones who caused all the chaos in the world. With things in chaos, they could do whatever they wanted to the weaker people who didn't have powers. At that moment, one of them pointed at his friends and said that the hero could help them, not just by giving them aid, but also by teaching them how to use power. But no, he just gave them the noodles and left. However, right then, someone appeared in the background. This person asked where the man who had just been on the broadcast went. When he heard this, he looked back and saw a crowd of people. He said that the man went to the right, but after saying this, his group started hitting him. Now on the ground, he asked why they hit him since he had told them where the man went. Looking up, he looked for a package of instant noodles. Then he realized that maybe, if he wanted it, well, if he wanted it, all he had to do was take it. But after saying those things, he ended up getting kicked in the face. After that, he got up and went in a different direction. After going in that direction, he grabbed one of the zombies that Xia Yan had defeated. After getting up, he put it in front of another person. They asked what he was doing, but he just wanted to do a small experiment. Looking at them after doing this, he then walked towards the other person. At that moment, he put the zombie close to his face, but it didn't last long because the zombie bit him in the face. Lying on the ground, he said that what he was doing was a good thing for humanity, fighting against the zombies, while the zombie was eating him. His friends just stood there and watched. The people who saw what happened were scared. Just a few minutes after the zombie ate him, the person he ate stood up again. Then, the zombie did something to the body. After all that, the zombie pulled a magical crystal out of the dead body. He could take that crystal and absorb it into himself. As he held it, he also figured out that when a zombie eats someone, it makes these crystals, which he could take in for himself. He saw that he was getting stronger and stronger. Right after he said this, his helpers came up to him and said they had already found 4 people with special powers. With all that strength, they could easily find Xia Yan and then eat him or beat him. After saying that, he said their goal was to catch Xia Yan and then defeat him. If they did that, they could get all of Xia Yan's spirit cleansing pills. In the end, he could turn the zombies into weapons for himself. But right now, he could finish off the group that was there. They begged him to let them live, but it didn't matter. He grabbed a sword that formed from his hand and killed them all. He seemed to be testing why he was doing it, and with a crazy look on his face, he said it didn't really make sense, but he liked it. After beating one of his friends, the next one was next. After beating the second one, the next one came. After hurting them badly, we saw him leave, saying those guys were weak. But just as he said that, he saw a light falling from the sky. He was surprised by this and saw that it landed right in front of him. When he realized this, he ran to his jeep and jumped in. Then, on top of the jeep, they started driving toward the noise. Xia Yan was also heading toward the noise. He had been looking for that small god to defeat him. So, he ran through the city to the other side. He finally reached a place he had wanted to get to, but when he arrived, his eyes opened wide because the monster in front of him was huge. But the monster was already about to eat someone, and other people were caught in its web. Bai Shireen was one of the people in the spider's web. Now that she was caught, she wondered what she could do. Not knowing what else to do, she tried to become invisible, but when she tried, she realized it wasn't working. It seemed like all her energy was gone. She saw that her sister Wang was about to be eaten, so she tried to use her invisibility again. She had to think fast and remembered that she still had Xia Yan's jumping pills. But she couldn't waste any time because her sister was already going toward the monster's mouth. She took one of the pills and quickly put it in her sister's mouth because her sister needed help right away. But then, her own special powers suddenly turned on. The monster saw her power activate and was surprised. Before the monster could hurt the teacher, one of its legs was cut off. We didn't understand what was happening, but we watched our hero save his sister from the other side. After getting his sister safe, he cut down the spider webs. Now facing the monster, he told her to run. The guy got pushed forward. She ran but then had to face the monster directly. He realized that this spider was strong against fire. How could he beat it now? The monster was getting ready to attack our hero. One of its legs almost grabbed him, but he jumped onto the monster spider. He then took out his axe and finally hit the monster hard, pushing it back a little. Now standing still, he knew he needed to use more fire, but the monster also used fire. Even with its fire, it wasn't strong enough to stop Xia Yan's fire. The spider realized it was in trouble and made a loud scream. Xia Yan knew this scream was a bad sign because he looked to the side and saw small spiders coming out of the buildings. He looked to the other side and saw the same thing. He realized he was now surrounded by these spiders. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the group with the person who betrayed them was moving forward. They were also destroying some zombies and collecting crystals. With the number of crystals he had taken in, he felt like he was about to get stronger. But one of his friends pointed in a direction and saw something ahead. They stopped their jeep and saw someone fighting. Maybe it was Xia Yan because there was fire there. One of them thought about helping, but another warned them to be careful because they looked up and saw a spider. When they saw the spider, one of them used a sword to try and attack it, but it wasn't strong enough, and the spider didn't get hurt. Others shot bullets, but they didn't work. The green one tried his best punch, but even that wasn't enough to defeat or kill this weak spider. But after trying a little more, he finally succeeded. After beating it, he noticed the smell of the liquid was like the smell of a crystal core. While he was looking at it, he saw something else happening above. A giant spider was on fire. Looking closer, they saw a person. It was Xia Yan. They even thought about starting their plan, but they realized he was fighting and killing the powerful spider. Shi Jun then came up with a plan: let Xia Yan weaken the monster, then attack him and take what belongs to him. If he did this, his own power would become much stronger, and in the end, Xia Yan would be defeated. While they were talking about this, we saw the spider on the roof facing our hero. This spider sent its baby spiders after him, but he once again took out a small axe and easily destroyed the weak spiders. After beating the weak spiders, he moved towards the stronger one. But the web holding him caught fire, and he fell to the ground. While falling, he smashed the rest of the spiders. But he wasn't finished. He hit the big spider in front of him a few more times. After these hits, he saw that the spider was already dead. After defeating it, he looked in another direction and saw his old friend fighting some weak spiders. After beating some and eating others, he also licked and drank their blood. Xia Yan was very surprised to see that Shi Junyan had become incredibly strong, much stronger than he was before. His people said that his strength was now like many fighters combined. They thought that if all three of them worked together, they could easily beat Xia Yan. And after beating Xia Yan, they could eat those spiders. While they were talking about this, Xia Yan jumped down and said it was disgusting to eat spiders, even a zombie wouldn't want to eat that. But the main character didn't have time to talk to these unimportant people. He pointed the other way and said that this spider wanted to visit them. Just then, the mother spider realized that her babies had been eaten by these humans. She thought, if you want to eat more, you can do it right in front of this big monster. Meanwhile, Xia Yan stayed back and watched everything. While this was happening, the monster appeared in front of the others. They froze, they were completely stunned. However, while eating some of the spiders, the monster noticed that these humans were eating its babies, which made it very angry. The spiders started attacking from all directions. They began to defend themselves from all sides too. Meanwhile, Xia Yan was mostly just watching what was happening. At that moment, he realized there were some things he needed to do. But if he had to, he could send a message and get help. Meanwhile, he became annoyed by their actions, but one of his friends told them to go back because he had run out of bullets. However, the leader insisted that they stay because he still wanted to capture Sean. Just then, he used a dark power inside him that made his body grow huge. One of the spiders moved towards him, but he grabbed it and bit off its head. He felt happy, realizing he had become stronger. But again, one of his friends asked them to go back. However, he refused because he wanted to capture more spiders, which made him stronger. He told them they had to watch as his power grew stronger. He warned them that if anyone even thought about going back, he would never forgive them. They agreed with what he said, and they moved forward, wanting to catch more spiders. Then, the story moves to a different place. Here, we see Xia Yan fighting the Spider Queen. He hit her in the face, but he knew it wasn't enough to stop her. The Spider Queen got angry and jumped on him, pulling her web with her. After jumping, she let go of the web, and it trapped Xia Yan. Now that he was caught, the spider came closer and started wrapping him up even more in the web. Once he was tied up, she started to celebrate. But Xia Yan wondered what kind of celebration that was because he wasn't finished fighting yet. Right then, he used his fire power, and the web burned to ashes. The fire also went towards the Spider Queen, burning both her and the web. Xia Yan jumped forward, aiming to attack the Spider Queen again. Now that he was closer, he told her there was a perfect place for her, a place she would really like. He touched her head, and the spider disappeared. But her spirit form showed up again, and she was very angry. She started yelling at Xia Yan, not able to believe how he could do that, to capture her, the strongest of all. Annoyed, she put her hand on his head, but he grabbed her head tightly. In the end, we see Xia Yan squeeze her head, and the Spider Queen broke apart, vanished, or was sent somewhere else. Xia Yan looked at his hand and realized he had reached the fourth superior level of power. Meanwhile, back in his own world, someone wondered what was happening. Suddenly, something started to happen. This event made Xia Yan understand some things. Let's say his I got some new powers. These new powers caused him a lot of pain, but a few minutes later, he noticed even more changes, like being able to see a small map. Looking down, he saw a giant flame. And guess who it was? It was Xia Yan himself. But looking to the side, he also saw 3 small spirits standing next to him. They seemed quite strong, and he realized that a powerful creature had died right there. He noticed that now, his new ability let him clearly see the heat of the powers of anyone around him, anyone he could now see. This meant he had heat vision, a vision that let him see through anything. Maybe he thought this was not very impressive at the moment. However, while he thought he was moving forward, maybe somewhere else, he started to feel that someone was behind him. Just then, the person called out to him. But as soon as he stopped to look at her, he started to remember something. Well, this person was by Shireen. But now that he noticed something, he also realized what her powers were. Her power was being invisible. Yet, as he thought about going towards her, he felt a very strong energy clearly coming from the top of a building. This got his attention. Then, the story changes to focus on another person. This person was completely covered in insects. And the person covered in insects was Jun, Xia Yan's greatest enemy. By eating many spiders, he had become very strong, and he believed he had reached his highest power. Now, he had reached the second level of special ability. He felt very powerful. But here's what happened, these powers are divided into levels from 1 to 9, and his goal was to definitely reach level 9. If he could reach level 9 in this world, Jun would basically become like a god, and no one could stop him anymore. While he was thinking about these things, he looked ahead and saw someone. And that person was Xia Yan. As soon as Jun saw Xia Yan, he ran very fast towards him, shouting and telling Xia Yan to stop. He said that because he had always been weaker than Xia Yan, he would now show Xia Yan, who he thought was unimportant, what real power was. He demanded that Xia Yan kneel down because he had now reached the second level. At that moment, thinking he was the strongest person in the world and that no one could defeat him, he was very surprised because Xia Yan punched him perfectly. And it wasn't just a perfect punch, it crushed his face. Also, it sent him flying backward very fast. It was a shocking sight. After being thrown back, Jun rolled around until he finally stopped. When he stopped, he stood up. But as soon as he was standing, he was very surprised. How had Xia Yan become so strong? This was impossible. Jun was at level 2. He turned to Xia Yan and shouted, asking how Xia Yan had managed to hit him since he himself had now reached level 2. Then, Xia Yan walked up to Jun and said, "Guess what level I'm at?" He said it was a secret because telling him would be sad, as Xia Yan had also done some things he didn't like. One of those things was taking Jun's ex-girlfriend. But that was in the past, so Xia Yan moved forward. As he walked closer, he told Jun to wait and also apologized. At the same time, Jun realized that something bad was about to happen to him, so he started eating the remains of the monsters nearby. But now Xia Yan was close to Jun and wondered what had happened to him. Xia Yan was always careful, but this time he was too rushed. Hearing this, Jun turned and wondered what Xia Yan was talking about. Also, in the past, if Jun had been the first to figure out how to become a person with superpowers, he would very likely have done many experiments on weak people, including Xia Yan. He was very surprised at that moment. He saw that he was eating dirty things to become strong. He was shocked by this, and he yelled, "What bad effects will this have on me?" He had just said that something bad might happen if he ate monsters. He thought that was impossible. It wouldn't happen because he was becoming a god. He laughed, thinking that being a god was just a weak person's dream. Then, he looked closely at the tree and realized he might not have been doing the right things to become what he wanted. He started to think that maybe eating dirty things was the perfect way to become the strongest god in the world. Maybe Xia Yan was just trying to make him give up and confuse him because he was getting so much stronger. Then, he walked up to Xia Yan. Now that he was close, he wondered if he was afraid since he was becoming stronger than Xia Yan. Feeling ashamed, he ran towards Xia Yan, wanting to punch him in the face to get back at him for the punch he had just received. But suddenly, he stopped. He felt something on his foot. He looked down and saw many huge, monster-like things stuck to his foot. They seemed to be pulling him down. He didn't understand what was happening as these things started to stick to his body. He was scared and felt a lot of pain. He wondered what was happening to him. He didn't understand anything. At that moment, Xia Yan started to explain everything. The answer was that he had killed many zombies, and now he was turning into what he had killed. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't lose to someone like Xia Yan, whom he thought was unimportant. He thought he was better than Xia Yan. But Xia Yan said that what he had been doing was very wrong. He kept eating without stopping and didn't let his body digest properly. Also, in the past, many people had tried to get superpowers but ate too many monsters. It seemed unbelievable, but their powers turned against them and turned them into zombies like him. At that moment, Xia Yan reached out his hand, asking what he could do to help. He had a chance to become normal again. So, he went to Jun, who told him about the cure and the secret words to change back into a normal human and not become a zombie. It's simple, just take Sanping. Then, he realized there was nothing else he could do. Soon after, unable to believe what was happening, he fell apart. Xia Yan explained that the spirit cleansing pill was a cure that gave him the energy he needed for the power he was taking in. He ate a lot of spider monster, which made his level go up a lot, and that was amazing. But there was a problem. If he didn't take a spirit cleansing pill soon, he wouldn't be able to control the bad powers inside him. These powers would slowly take over his body and turn him into a zombie. He knew he would become a zombie, and he knew Xia Yan had the pill that could save him. So, he said sorry, saying everything bad that happened was his fault, and he begged to be forgiven. Right then, the other person came closer again and asked what kind of relationship they had now. After all, Jun had once been his worst enemy and had made him feel very ashamed. He had even turned his friend into his enemy. At that moment, this person came up and kicked Jun in the chin, making his friend fall backward. But really, he didn't even care that Jun had attacked him. What really mattered was that Jun had attacked his sister, and he didn't like that at all. While lying on the ground, Jun heard these words come out of his mouth. But he also said that not even the gods could save him. Then, he took out a card that had a spirit cleansing pill on it. He grabbed it and almost held it out towards Jun. Jun thought he was going to give it to him. But he was very surprised. His face turned pale, and then they saw Xia Yan say that the pill he had was just 1 out of a trillion that he owned. Now, Xia Yan wondered what would happen if he gave all these spirit cleansing pills to his family, how strong they would become. However, since they used to be friends, he even thought that he should give one of these spirit cleansing pills to Jun. But things were different now, they weren't friends anymore. So, he turned away and said, "It's a shame. Jun was a good friend. But now he deserves to die." After saying this, he jumped towards Jun, wanting to kill him. But before he could reach him, the main character saw someone step in front of Jun. Then, Xia Yan turned around and was very surprised. He realized that the person who blocked him was Bai Shirin, the teacher of the main character's sister. Seeing this, he wasn't surprised that she did it, but he was surprised that she had the courage to do such a thing. It turned out that she had heard the whole conversation, and for some reason, she almost ended up the same way as the main character. Xia Yan was happy for her because he had told her earlier that she needed to buy some spirit cleansing pills, and she actually did. Now that this whole scene was over, she pulled out the metal bar that was stuck in Jun. And now, we can finally say that the main character's revenge was complete. But it wasn't completely finished yet, and their story continued. The girl went straight ahead and hit the other person in the face. Only after doing all that did she mention that she saw online that if you destroy a monster's core like this one, you can get a crystal. To do that, she grabbed the club she was holding and smashed it down on the other person's head. The crystal comes out, and right away, she runs and picks it up. Once she has it, she gives it to the main character. But he says no because that crystal belonged to Jun, and his monster power had grown a lot. So, the main character decides to let her keep it. She takes it and starts to absorb its power. Only after she absorbs it does she feel the power inside her. Then, the main character warns her not to take in too much power, or she might end up becoming a monster like that other guy. Now that she has the crystal, the main character wants to ask if she will be okay, since she can turn invisible. But before he can leave, she calls his name. After calling him, she points out that the spider monster was right in front of them. It was likely that he was hunting that monster. But to fight the strong monsters that would appear later, he would need help. So, she offers to help the main character fight these powerful monsters. He asks why she wants to help him with that. She says that if they ever need someone to lure monsters, she will even be that person. She just wants to show the main character that she is useful, so that at least they can, but after explaining all this, the main character pretends he didn't understand anything. Then she starts explaining that she is worried because if she stays alone, she will die. Seeing this, the main character has an idea. He tells her to go to a certain hospital, kill some monsters there, and then take whatever valuable things she finds and bring them back to him. After getting this task, she agrees and gets ready to leave. But before she goes, the main character warns her that the monsters inside that place are stronger than this spider monster. She then tells him not to worry, she can handle it. With that, she leaves. Now that she is gone, the main character can continue what he was doing. But he also decides to give her some extra protection. He uses his special eye to watch everything that is happening. Through it, he sees that there are 3 monsters, but they are not as strong as the girl. Seeing this, he starts laughing and simply says that he doesn't mind having a partner. Now that everything is settled, he can finally deal with the remaining mess around there. Meanwhile, in another place, Shi Jun's father falls to the ground. After a moment, the others ask what is wrong. Then he stands up, and one of them says that Xia Yan killed his son. Now, to get revenge, they will attack the place where the main character's sister is and kill her. If they succeed, they will also be able to get many of those spirit cleansing pills. He then tells his group to move forward. Everyone nearby gets into a car and a jeep. Soon after, they all crowd into the jeep and drive toward the place where the main character's sister is. While these crazy people are going after the main character's sister, in another location, we see her completely fine but a little scared. She is watching the news, which says that the world is in total chaos. Every human is turning into a monster, and monsters are invading the earth. Worried, she looks out the window and calls for Xia Yan, hoping that he will at least return safely.